Hello readers by eyes and by ears, this is Chen and welcome back to my channel. Today we are continuing with another reading of Riverbay Road, Men's Dormitory Volume 2 by Fei Tian Xiang, also known as Arise Zhang, and we're starting at chapter 39, so I hope you all are ready to dig in. we are almost done with this story, you guys. We've got about 200 pages left, which technically sounds like a lot of the book. But when you consider that we made it through all of volume 1 and this is our final volume, that is a little bit more of a source of encouragement. So let us continue with the story, again, starting at chapter 39. On the 5th day of the Lunar New Year, Chunhong's gym opened its doors with a 1-month soft launch. Chunhong's experience told him that business would likely be slow in the first month, but since the 5th day of the lunar year was auspicious, he decided to go for it and open for business anyway. He didn't want to employ his competitors' methods of hiring part-time fitness trainers and setting them loose onto the streets like a pack of stray dogs to beg passers-by for food, or, in this case, to sign up for gym memberships. Instead, he took Yue Wen's advice for his new gym and treated it like a long-term private studio. He hired only one employee, a woman, and would save as much as he could on expenses like rent. But of course, even the most modest business needed an opening ceremony. Chunhong invited his roommates to join him for a simple ribbon-cutting ceremony at the gym entrance, intending to follow it with coffee and a chat inside. Never in his wildest dreams could he have expected the turnout he received. The studio stood between a convenience store and a gas station, in a location that got lots of natural light, and flower baskets with signs congratulating Chunhong on his grand opening were everywhere. They were practically spilling into the road. Each of his roommates had sent 2, and Yue Wen and Suh-chun had also sent congratulations under their company's names. But what really threw Chunhong for a loop was the celebrity sighting. Yue wasn't famous, but he was still a C-lister. And when his car pulled up outside the gym and he stepped out in his suit, he oozed star power. He gave the impression that he was walking the red carpet, complete with his own entrance music. Between him, the passers-by who stopped to gawk, and the old clients of Chunhong's who came to offer their congratulations, the place was full to the brim. Yue? Zhang Yuwen had just arrived bearing gifts, and he was just as surprised, though for different reasons than Chunhong. "Is that the actor?" Suh-chun asked. "Seems like it," Zhang Yuwen replied. "Have you seen his dramas? He's Jinxing's friend." "Since when does Jinxing know actors?" "He's a cameraman for a production crew." Zhang Yuwen motioned for Suh-chun to go on ahead, worried that Yue might blow his cover by tactlessly calling him Director Zhang. Fortunately, though, Jinxing had given Yue a heads up about the situation. He was in the middle of a casual chat with Yue, who looked every inch the charmer in his sunglasses. And when he saw Zhang Yuwen, he made a "don't worry" gesture. Zhang Yuwen nodded in understanding and approached them. Chunhong bustled around, busy with his gym. In addition to the friends who came to congratulate him, there were a lot of old clients at the opening, plus a flock of gay men from the gay dating app he'd re-downloaded to advertise his gym. Weize's live stream channel also brought traffic to his gym. He'd hyped the event up before the new year, telling his viewers, "Come for eye candy, there'll be lots of hot guys." Consequently, gay men thronged the studio entrance like attendees at a film festival, decked out in their cutest fits. They strolled around under the clear, sunny sky, looking like marchers at a pride parade. Of course, Yue Wen and WAY-dzuh were there too. WAY-dzuh even got up early to do his makeup and style Yue Wen's hair with wax. As soon as Yue Wen arrived, someone exclaimed, "Look, a hottie!" Looking like a couple, the two of them handed over their congratulatory flowers and traded hugs with Chunhong, who hadn't returned home the previous night because he was busy tidying up the gym. Chunhong was surprised by Yue Wen's appearance, Between his physique and his meticulously groomed hair, his looks rivaled Jinxing's. Chun-guga. Looking good. Jinxing snapped some photos of him. Did Weize style your hair? And did you shape your eyebrows? Keep your voice down, Yuen muttered, embarrassed. Where's Yue Wen? Over there. They just arrived too. Yue Wen was standing outside the gym, drinking a hot beverage. When Kong-yu saw his target approaching, he took off his sunglasses and said politely, Yuwen Xiang. Hi, Yue Wen grinned. Wow, you're Kong-yu, right? I've seen your shows. Can I have your autograph? Kong-yu broke out in a cold sweat. Jinxing had sternly instructed him not to act too subservient, and he wasn't sure what to do with himself. Suh-chun made an inquisitive sound, but Jinxing hurriedly diverted him away. Suh-chun, come look at this. Left alone, Yue Wen and Kong-yu stood off to one side and traded pleasantries, and before long, Kong-yu's manager joined them. Yue Wen knew that Jinxing must have convinced Kong-yu to make an appearance by telling him Yue Wen would be there. Celebrities rarely did anything that didn't benefit them, and just because they'd shot a show together didn't mean they were close friends. Their relationship would have been, at best, a mixture of friendship and mutual benefit. They were there to support a friend's gym, so Yue Wen chatted with Kong-yu for a bit longer, confident that Kong-yu didn't expect this small talk to win him any major connections or privileges. Instead, he was looking to establish himself as a familiar face to Yue Wen. After about 10 minutes of conversation, Kong-yu summoned the courage to ask Yue Wen about exchanging contact information, and Yue Wen readily agreed. All right, it's time, Chahng announced. Let's cut the ribbon. Everyone came back together for the ribbon cutting. Chahng looked like he wanted to drag Kong-yu up to the front for a photo op, but Yue Wen stopped him. Listen to me, Yue Wen whispered. Don't take random promotional photos with celebrities. Kong-yu was there as a favor to a friend, so he wasn't being paid for his appearance, and Chahng would be hard-pressed to explain things if Kong-yu were to get caught up in a scandal or controversy down the road. Yue Wen did also notice a lot of gay people among the onlookers, and if he shared a photo of Kong-yu to promote his gym, Chahng could risk inadvertently outing him. Thus, once Jinxing got his camera set up to take a photo of the big moment, Chahng cut the ribbon on his own. After the ribbon cutting, Kong-yu politely bade Chahng farewell and pulled him in for a firm hug. May your business prosper, Kong-yu said, grinning. Chahng was flattered. Thanks. Thank you so much. Yue Wen felt a lot more relaxed with Kong-yu gone. He did, however, overhear a few of Changhong's clients gossiping, saying Kong-yu was his sponsor's kept man and he was clearly gay. Jinxing heard it too, and it made him furious. But this was his buddy's grand opening. He couldn't go and start shit with these people. You heard that? Yue Wen whispered to him. That's what being a celebrity is like. All glamour in public, but the second you turn your back, they start gossiping. Jinxing nodded. Suh-chun, who was wandering around the gym, asked, How do you know that guy? Our publishing house once did a book on him, Yue Wen explained, and I was the editor on the project. Oh. Suh-chun accepted this slapdash explanation hook, line, and sinker. At last, Chahng had some spare time to chat with his friends. Everyone signed their name on the opening ceremony's backdrop wall, and Jinxing took photos of each of them. They were also able to pick stickers that read 1, 0, or 0.5 from a box and stick them on the wall where the message board was. What's your primary target audience for your new gym? Suh-chun asked Chahng. This was the first time Suh-chun had encountered so many gay guys in one place, and the box with the numbered stickers perplexed him. I advertise on a gay dating app, Chahng explained. I'm thinking of catering to the gay community. His employee, the female trainer, was helping him handle inquiries and signing up new clients on opening day. Between the big turnout and the promotional discount they were offering, Chahng expected their sales figure for the day to be decent. I saw the message wall, Yue Wen chimed in. You're planning to organize dating and other events too, right? Yup. Chahng was less worried about his sexual orientation being out in the open so long as he could make money. I'll occasionally organize murder mystery games, board games, and other stuff like that. It'll be like a small club. Suh-chun nodded. He was drawing plenty of glances from the people coming and going, and Zhang Yuwen had noticed Suh-chun was popular with the gym crowd. Jun, too, had his fair share of admirers. Everyone's so friendly, Suh-chun commented. Because you seem the straightest of all of us. And none of those guys are even trying to hide it, Zhang Yuwen thought. There's a lot of bottoms here, Chahng added, but it's okay. All they'll do is ogle. You don't have to worry about them coming up and grabbing your dick or anything like that. Suh-chun was dumbstruck. Meanwhile, people were already hitting on Jun, though Jung Weize clung tightly to his arm, his hostility palpable. Stay away from my guga, you hoes! Guys, look at the message board, Chahng said. They already have 8 zeros, 3 ones, and 12 0.5s. The numbers represented whether their selector was a bottom, a top, or a verse. Are we going to have an impromptu matchmaking later? Suh-chun asked. It's like a math problem. It won't be easy to match everyone. This is like throwing chickens and rabbits into the same cage. A total mismatch, Zhang Yuwen grumbled, even as he grabbed a sticker for himself and pasted it to the wall. Suh-chun took a 1 from the box, though Zhang Yuwen had taken a 0.5. Suh-chun took out a 0 and raised an eyebrow at Zhang Yuwen, insinuating that he should swap to 0. Zhang Yuwen shot him a glare, and Suh-chun burst out laughing. Jun took a 1, and Zhang Yuwen took a 0. Jinxing went over, thought for a moment, and took a 1 too. Zhang Yuwen let out his signature, "Oh." "Oh," everyone else said in unison. Then they doubled over with laughter. Jinxing made an inquisitive noise. You guys got something to say? Want a taste of my golden cudgel? Everyone hastily declined. People started approaching Jinxing to ask for his contact information. He gave in and added a few of them on his app, wanting to get away from them as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Chahng chatted with Jun. You should be able to recoup at least 70% of the funds you spent on this place today, Jun said, handing contracts over to Chahng. I closed 2 deals for you. Ha! Thank you so much. We're short on manpower. I should have hired a few more temporary workers to help out. Jun waved off his thanks. It'll get better after a few more days. You're right. I'm so glad I listened to your advice. In a rare moment of shyness, Jun smiled. I just have more experience dealing with this sort of thing. Chahng had consulted with Jun before opening the business, and it was fair to say that Jun deserved half of the credit for the gym. He made a lot of good suggestions, starting off small by hiring 1 or 2 employees and having them take on several people's workload in exchange for higher pay or shares in the company, saving on rent and utility costs where possible, focusing on providing excellent service to every gym member, maintaining a good relationship with regulars, and, of course, not biting off more than he could chew. Chahng had taken all his advice and scaled back the business, and he felt a lot more relaxed as a result. Elsewhere, a pair of close gay friends recognized Weize. Oh, wow! Are you Xiao? Yeah. Weize didn't recognize them, but he smiled. You're here too, huh? They both grinned. You look just like you do in the live stream. Weize felt thrilled to be recognized. To think he even met fans offline when he had so few of them. He waited, wondering if they would ask for his autograph. Can we take a picture together? Of course. Weize might not have been as handsome as his roommates, but his makeup skills were excellent and he didn't shy away from taking group photos. All right, let's get out of here already, Zhang Yuwen said. Our hosts swamped with work. Where should we go? Jun asked. How about the flower market? Jinxing suggested. It's still open for business, and today's the last day we can get anything. Everyone agreed. Chun-hong's composure crumbled a little as he watched his friends prepare to leave. I want to go too. We'll hang out tomorrow, Zhang Yuwen said. Will you be coming home tonight? We'll see. I'll try my best. Jung Weize took a quick photo with his fans and left. Suh-chun was driving, so Zhang Yuwen took the passenger seat, while Jinxing and Yuwen sat in the back with Zhang Weize squeezed in the middle. Since they'd ditched Chun-hong, there was just enough room for all of them. Finally, they set off. Which flower market? Suh-chun asked. How about the one at Dynasty Road? Zhang Yuwen suggested. It's livelier there, and since it's their last day, we might even score some bargains. He glanced back at Yuwen. What's wrong? Said Yuwen. Something on my face? Zhang Yuwen laughed. To think you can actually rival Jinxing with a bit of styling. Suh-chun glanced at Yuwen in the rearview mirror. I didn't even recognize you at first. In some respects, Suh-chun was a typical straight guy who saw Zhang Yuwen as one of the guys. Even when his partner complimented a friend's looks, Suh-chun showed no signs of jealousy. Maybe he trusted Zhang Yuwen implicitly after the nights they'd spent together recently, or perhaps he was just so confident in himself that he didn't see Yuwen as a love rival. Either way, his only response was to compliment Yuwen too. Once again, the flattery embarrassed Yuwen. Where's Xiaoqi? Zhang Yuwen asked. With my ma, replied Yuwen. Can your mother take care of her on her own? Zhang Weize asked. Shouldn't be a problem. My aunt is there too. I'll pick her up after the Lantern Festival. So you finally get a break now, huh? Suh-chun said lightheartedly. Yeah, but I'm not used to it. Sometimes it feels like I need her more than she needs me. Zhang Yuwen glanced at Suh-chun and smiled. Naturally, Suh-chun understood what Zhang Yuwen was thinking, and he murmured. Love is all about mutual need. Everyone fell silent. A moment later, Zhang Yuwen and Chang Jinxing spoke simultaneously. Zhang Yuwen said, Yuwen. Chang Jinxing said, Suh-chun. Yuwen and Suh-chun responded in unison, but Zhang Yuwen and Chang Jinxing didn't know who should go first. After a moment, Chang Jinxing gestured for Zhang Yuwen to go ahead, so Zhang Yuwen asked, Is Honka's business viable? Yuwen didn't answer. Suh-chun was a finance expert too, but he was too busy, and Chun-hong hadn't wanted to impose on him. Even though he was the one who brought Suh-chun and Zhang Yuwen together, there still seemed to be a barrier between them. Do you have a cost sheet? Suh-chun asked. He knew Zhang Yuwen cared about Chun-hong and wanted him to make money. I'll know once I look at it. Yuwen saw it, Zhang Yuwen said. He was the one who gave Honka advice before the grand opening. It's hard to say, Yuwen replied finally. But there's potential. It'll depend on how he manages operations down the line. Zhang Yuwen met Yuwen's eyes in the rearview mirror. How about breaking even? That won't be a problem. But I'm worried he'll start spending indiscriminately again once he gets there. Zhang Yuwen nodded and said nothing more. He'd considered investing in Chun-hong's business. For him, losing a few 100,000 or even 1,000,000 yuan was no different from breaking a vase at home. If he'd become an investor, however, it would have inevitably changed their relationship. Zhang Yuwen's grandparents had told him growing up that a person should never go into business with their buddies. Zhang Yuwen was hoping Chun-hong would do a good job running his gym. After a bit of thoughtful silence, Chang Jinxing said, Yuwen, what's up? Have you ever been abroad? Are you thinking of traveling overseas? Suh-chun asked, butting in. I've been talking to a friend of mine about furthering my studies abroad, Chang Jinxing said with some uncertainty. But the process seems pretty complicated, and the tuition is really expensive, right? Tuition shouldn't be a problem, Zhang Yuwen said. Lots of students work part-time to pay for their tuition, and schools overseas offer scholarships too, which is like the financial aid we have here. You can apply so long as you meet the requirements. Here we are, the flower market. Let's get out first. Back at the gym, Chun-hong worked out his income. He'd signed on a good number of new members in addition to his returning clients, and even at the promotional price, he'd recouped somewhere in the range of 60 to 70% of his initial investment. Next, he'd have to recruit new members and sell training sessions. The opening went much better than he'd expected, and it was all thanks to his roommate's support. Gradually, the crowd of gay men who came to gawk dispersed. Chahng picked up a 1 and stuck it on the message board. Facing the wall full of zeros, ones, and 0.5s, he was struck by a sudden pang of melancholy. It felt as if there was no refuge for his soul to seek and no direction for his body to move in. All his experiences, the people he'd loved, his family and career, they were all reduced to a simple label representing a gay sex position, pinned to the center of a board for others to gawk at and judge. He took the 1 down, then, after a moment's thought, put it back up. Most of the crowd was gone, and the trainer began her training session. Chahng picked up some forms to schedule training sessions for his new members, but just then, someone else arrived. Is it Mr. Elite? Okay, let's see. I've been thinking about him. Anyway, welcome. Feel free to look around. Chahng told his new arrival. The man walked over to Chahng and stood in front of the coffee table. Would you like something to drink? Then Chahng looked up and, to his surprise, saw that it was Mr. Elite. Mr. Elite had told Chahng to call him Dong, and to Chahng's surprise, they ended up chatting a fair bit on the messaging app. Mostly, though, they just shared info about local food and entertainment. By unspoken agreement, they avoided talking about their private lives. Chahng did share some of Dong's messages with Yuwen, who called him Mr. Dong. After the first time, Mr. Dong had asked Chahng to hook up 3 more times, but Chahng had been busy lately, so they'd only met up once during the day. Mr. Dong booked the room, and Chahng took some time off from the renovation and rode his motorcycle over the hotel to get down and dirty with him. He liked Dong's body, his fair skin, minimal body fat, defined abs, and long legs that seemed effortlessly toned. A physique like that was all genetics, and it seemed like it ought to belong to a bottom, not a top. When Chahng fucked him, he asked, "Aren't you supposed to be a top? Huh? You like getting fucked. You like it when I take you like this." There was no doubt in his mind that their second encounter had left an unforgettable impression on Mr. Dong. For Chahng, dominating someone who identified as a top was extremely sexy and gratifying. More importantly, Dong had a great body and was very cooperative. He wasn't shy and didn't hold back in bed, which made Chahng remember his time with his ex. After a few intimate encounters, Chahng considered making Mr. Dong a regular long-term hookup partner. Maybe that would alleviate the anxiety of being single. At his grand opening, a lot of men who showed up wouldn't take their eyes off Chahng, and some of them tried to proposition him. Some even tried to discreetly seduce him by asking how many credits they needed to buy for their gym membership to qualify for private lessons. Chahng politely declined all the offers, determined not to get involved with his gym members again. He'd had sex with his gym members the last time because he was enticed by the promise of commissions, and that led to a lifetime of regrets. He'd been young and foolish, and hadn't realized that temptation always came with a hefty price tag. He would not make the same mistake again. In the evening, when everyone was gone, the trainer came up to him. "Boss, I'm done for the day." "Thanks for your hard work," Chahng said. "Not open for business at night?" Mr. Dong asked as he sat down at the coffee table. "Overtime? Before the holidays are over, the staff will riot," Chahng said. "So, are you going to sign up for a gym membership?" "I could sign up for one to support your business." "What business? It's all just for fun." Chahng wasn't in the least bit polite with Dong, and his words were sometimes barbed. He always had the vague feeling that Dong looked down on him. Dong always had this polite demeanor that reflected his elite upbringing, but his politeness was nothing like Zhang Yuwen's, or rather, it was a bit like the attitude Zhang Yuwen had when they first met. Once they got to know each other, however, it became apparent that Zhang Yuwen saw all his roommates as his equals and treated them with empathy and respect. Dong's courtesy, on the other hand, was more obligatory, the kind that a person might show to drivers, security guards, and cleaning ladies. It was only meant to demonstrate his good upbringing. Your manners don't matter, but I must appear polite. Vexed and preoccupied with scheduling his gym members for training sessions, Chahng ignored Dong, so Dong was watching him from his seat off to the side. You're being a little rude, Dong said. I made a special point of coming here to show my support. You gonna sign up for a gym membership? Chahng asked. Sure. Where's your card reader? Will it include private home training sessions? Nope, I don't have time. If you sign up, you'll have to come here for your sessions. Dong thought about it for a moment. Fine. Chahng brought over the card reader. How many credits do you want to buy? Let's do 100,000. We don't have an option that expensive. Stop messing with me. Then, what's the highest tier you have? Any special perks? Chahng barked a laugh. The Platinum VIP tier gives you priority for booking training sessions. It costs 20,000 yuan. Just 20,000. Let's go with that then. Chahng was tempted to mock him, but dropped it. A paying client was a paying client. He knew Dong must be rich, judging by his luxury car. He'd be a fool not to take money that was basically falling into his hands, so he swiped the card for 20,000 yuan. Dong signed his name on the contract, and Chahng finally learned that his name was Dong Yo. When do you want to start the sessions? Chahng asked. How about now? Shouldn't you come up with a fitness plan for me, though? That'll depend on your goal. Do you want to build chest muscles, abs, strength, cardio? Why don't you look at my body first to see which parts I need to work on? Sure. I'll take a look if you strip. Fully naked? Fully naked. I'm wearing a thong today, Dongyo said. Should I take that off too? You can keep it on. What color? Your favorite. Want me to strip right here? Chahng closed the main door, locked it, put up the closed sign, and led Dongyo to the small back room where BMI was taken. Dongyo unbuttoned his shirt, revealing his fair pecs and abs. Chahng undressed, too, and Dongyo started caressing him. Chahng pulled Dongyo's pants down, and sure enough, he was wearing sexy underwear. Chahng hadn't had sex for the whole week he went back home for the holidays, and he was so horny he could burst. He poured some massage oil onto his palm, and they had sex right there in the closed gym. There were mirrors everywhere in the gym, but after a while, Chahng wasn't finding it exciting enough. He moved to fuck Dongyo from behind, making him put a leg up on one of the workout machines so that he could see Chahng entering him. It still wasn't enough, so Chahng made him touch the spot where their bodies melded into one to feel it too. Dongyo's face was flushed red, and his moans came in a ceaseless stream as Chahng drove him to the brink of ecstasy. Nearly an hour later, the two of them showered. Dongyo straightened his disheveled shirt and returned to his elite self. "Want to grab a meal?" he asked. Chahng stepped out wearing a gym tank top and sports pants, and Dongyo went up to him and fondled his crotch. "Why?" said Chahng, letting him do as he pleased. "Looking for more?" "Not satisfied yet." Dongyo let go. "I know a decent restaurant nearby," he said coolly. "Nah, I still have another thing tonight. Maybe another day." Chahng knew that Dongyo must have had a costly restaurant in mind. He didn't want Dongyo to treat him, but if he treated Dongyo instead, his wallet would weep, and asking to split the bill would make him look like a clown. Every time, after they had sex, Dongyo asked Chahng out for a meal. He seemed to want to get to know Chahng better, but Chahng knew that they belonged to different worlds, and he didn't want to get too involved, so he turned down every invitation that didn't involve the use of their lower bodies. "That's what you said the last time," Dongyo pointed out. "I'm really busy." Chahng gestured around the gym, suggesting that Dongyo could see for himself. Okay, but you can't turn me down next time. Chahng hummed in acknowledgement. Dong-yo was clearly smitten with him, mostly because Chahng acted all cool and reticent around him. But he was pretty wild in bed, nothing like his usual obedient puppy persona. Dong-yo hesitated for a moment, then leaned in and gave him a peck on the cheek. The gesture touched Chahng. In his opinion, kisses during sex meant nothing. That was only an expression that lust was running high. But kisses in the aftermath meant, I like you. That was all it was, though. Like. Chahng thought about it, then returned the gesture with a kiss on the lips. As Dong-yo was leaving, Chahng said, Platinum members also get some gifts. A thermos bottle, a hairdryer. It's fine. Keep them for yourself, Dong-yo said. All right, then. Chahng put down the membership gift set and watched with mixed feelings as Dong-yo left. It was the last day of the Spring Festival holidays, but the flower market was still a bustling hive of activity. The guys strolled around at leisure. Weize was still clinging onto Yuwen's arm, and Yue Wen was answering Jinxing's question about life abroad, leaving Suh-chun by himself. This spring festival, the roommates' wallets were visibly bulging, a far cry from the days when they'd just moved in, when they'd had to scrimp and save every penny. Jinxing and Yue Wen trailed behind the rest of them. Jinxing listened to Yue Wen talk, nodding now and then. The problems of language, finances, and studies could all be overcome. The biggest challenge of all, it seemed, was something that he hadn't yet considered: culture shock. Yue Wen bought a lot of flowers to decorate their home, and Weize purchased several small ornaments and picked out a small gift, a safe travel hanging charm for drivers. Yue Wen and Yuwen glanced at Weize when he asked the merchant to wrap it up. The flower market's exit happened to be right in front of the food stall where Yue Wen and Suh-chun had had their first lunch date. It was noisy and bustling on the 5th day of the spring festival, and they all squeezed into a square table at the corner and chatted among themselves. It was nightfall when Suh-chun finally dropped them off at number 7 Riverbay Road. After they made plans with him to have a barbecue at the Riverside Park the following day, Yue Wen opened the door and entered. Inside, the lights were on. Chahng was wearing an apron and arranging ingredients on bamboo skewers for the next day's barbecue. Why are you all just getting back now? He howled. Have you had dinner yet? Yue Wen asked, realizing what had happened. No, Chahng was crying inside. I called you guys, but either your phones were turned off or you didn't pick up. Did you guys plan this? My phone died, Yue Wen explained quickly. Chahng looked at Yuwen. What about you? I was carrying a flower pot the whole time, so I didn't check my phone. I was taking photos the whole way, Jinxing added. Sorry. Oh, why didn't you call me? Weize asked. I thought you guys would be back soon, Chahng muttered. I brought you takeout, Yue Wen told him. See? Fried rice and 3-cup chicken in pandan leaves. Chahng accepted it reluctantly, and Yue Wen smiled. You can eat more tomorrow to make up for it. Noticing Chahng's low spirits, Weize leaned over the dining table to peer at him. What's wrong? Huh? Oh, nothing. I'm just tired. How did it all turn out today? Yuwen asked. Great. Thanks to you guys and Jinxing. They all observed Chahng closely, trying to discern whether he was miffed about being left behind. Yue Wen didn't think it warranted that much of a reaction, but Chahng didn't appear troubled. He seemed like a completely different person from the one they left behind at the gym earlier in the day. Yuwen made a finger heart gesture at Yue Wen, who understood immediately, although Chahng had told him nothing about his love life recently. In truth, Yuwen was also just speculating. He didn't see the fuck buddy Chahng told him about at the opening, so his guess was that Chahng had fallen for Mr. Dong and was sad that he didn't show up for the big day. Everyone sat down to help Chahng skewer the ingredients and prepare the grill and charcoal for the barbecue. Through it all, Chahng was distracted, and when they were done, most of them returned to their rooms to pack for the trip. Only Yue Wen and Chahng remained at the dining table. How are things between you and Suh-chun? Chun-hong asked. As promised, you can have a 1-month waiver on your rent, Zhang Yuwen said. Chun-hong laughed. No need for that. It's my duty to pay the rent anyway. I promised you, though. Or how about I give you a gift as a commission for acting as a go-between? Chun-hong leaned closer to Zhang Yuwen and whispered, Can you lend me your, the landlord's Bentley? Oh? Chun-hong looked at Zhang Yuwen. Despite his pensive expression, Zhang Yuwen nodded and smiled. I feel like I know where this is going. Chapter 40. Jiangdong welcomed a warm spring on the 6th day of the Lunar New Year. The thin layer of ice over the Liujin River melted completely, and in the warmer weather, the temperature in the city returned to nearly 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Parks and other outdoor spaces bustled with people who were eager to take a stroll and enjoy the sun on the penultimate day of their week off. In the men's dormitory at No. 7 Riverbay Road, the guys started getting up at around 10 o'clock. Once awake, they sprang into action, and when they were all ready, they headed out to Fei Tian Park on the Liujin River with their backpacks to meet up with Suh-chun. He had gone ahead to secure a spot at the riverside for their barbecue and other outdoor activities. As they got ready to go, each roommate had a strange sense that something was missing. It wasn't until they saw Yuwen leave the house empty-handed, with only his hiking backpack, that they realized. Oh, Xiaoqi isn't here. It's not just you. We all feel so off without Xiaoqi around, Zhang Yuwen said. She spent nearly half of her life with you guys, Yuwen said. Xiaoqi had only been 6 months old when Yuwen started raising her, and by this point, she'd lived at No. 7 Riverbay Road for almost 4 months. Is she adjusting well to life in the countryside? Zhang Yuwen asked. The two of them stood chatting at the side of the bus. To be honest, not really, but my mother wants to keep her there. When I tried to leave, Xiaoqi kept calling for me. It was hard for me to explain, so I had to sneak away. When Yuwen took her home for the spring festival, Xiaoqi kept calling him Papa, which struck their visiting relatives as strange. Yuwen, scrambling, offered brotherly resemblance as an excuse. She never calls for Mama, Zhang Yuwen pointed out. That stand out too. Yuwen laughed. Yeah, she only calls for Papa and Yuwen now. My mom kept asking me who Yuwen was. She thought it was my girlfriend. Zhang Yuwen laughed. Now that they were on the subject, Yuwen took the opportunity to ask, How are things between you and Suh-chun? We're official now. Oh, Yuwen nodded. That's great. It occurred to Zhang Yuwen then that interactions between Yuwen and Suh-chun had decreased noticeably since the night they drank together on the Solar New Year. He said he'd like to treat everyone to a meal. Sure, but not today. This is supposed to be my treat. Yeah, Zhang Yuwen smiled. Yuwen didn't pry for details about Zhang Yuwen and Suh-chun's relationship. Over the last little while, he'd come to terms with his feelings. He liked Zhang Yuwen, and those feelings had ballooned beyond a longing for his own ideal life into an uncontrollable love. Perhaps it was because of Xiaoqi's absence that Yuwen's attention finally returned to himself. Or maybe it was the trip back to his hometown and his mother's insistence that he settled down that had forced him to confront his feelings again. Whatever the reason, last night he'd tossed and turned in bed where he slept alone, his mind continually playing Zhang Yuwen's compliment on his looks. He considered getting up to go chat with Zhang Yuwen, since it was still early in the night and he could hear Zhang Yuwen's and Chen Hong's voices downstairs, but he feared that Zhang Yuwen might figure out what was on his mind. Finally, just before 11, he couldn't resist the urge anymore and put on his pajamas, but by the time he stepped out, Zhang Yuwen had already gone back to his room. Now that Xiaoqi wasn't around, he didn't have to play the role of super dad. He had time to be himself. He'd grown used to being super dad, though, and on the few occasions he was able to break away from that persona, he felt a little unmoored. To combat it, he tried hard to recall his student days and transport himself back to that time. That morning, for their outing, he carefully chose his clothes, styled his hair, and sat in the living room to wait for Zhang Yuwen. Finally, he picked up his heavy backpack and headed out with everyone else. Surprisingly enough, the park wasn't all that crowded when they arrived. Suh-chun was already there waiting for them, and as Yuwen watched him set up the grill, a pang of melancholy hit him. Things had not developed in the direction he hoped for. He searched for signs that Suh-chun and Zhang Yuwen were incompatible and told himself with conviction that they would eventually break up. But would I have the courage to confess my love to Yuwen even if they did? Yuwen sighed inwardly. He had a 1-year-old daughter and an elderly mother to take care of. To Zhang Yuwen, he was an even less ideal suitor than Suh-chun. That much he knew. "Are we cooking yet?" asked Weize, who only cared about eating. "I'm starving." "I'll start grilling now," Jinxing said. Zhang Yuwen got the fire going, and Suh-chun stood next to him, watching. "Want to try your hand at archery?" Chun-hong asked Yuwen. There was an archery booth just next to where they'd set up. Yuwen went with Chun-hong to shoot arrows, and Weize asked them to win him surprises. Meanwhile, Suh-chun, Zhang Yuwen, and Jinxing prepped the food and chatted about studying abroad. "So have you decided yet?" Zhang Yuwen asked. "I guess I'm about 80% sure," said Jinxing. "You'll adapt," Suh-chun reassured him. "You're just going for a few years. It's not like you're never coming back." "I kind of can't bear to leave my current life," Jinxing said. "It's strange. I've lived on Riverbay Road for less than half a year, but it feels like it's been much longer." "You can go," Zhang Yuwen told him. "I'll save your room for you. I won't rent it out to anyone else." From a distance, Chun-hong called out, "Suh-chun, want to give this a try?" Suh-chun headed over to join them at archery. Chun-hong had lured Suh-chun away only because he sensed that Yuwen was feeling down. He didn't know why, but something told him that he should tear Zhang Yuwen and Suh-chun apart and pair Zhang Yuwen up with Yuwen. Maybe it was just that he was on better terms with Yuwen than Suh-chun? It would have been too obvious to send Yuwen to Zhang Yuwen right after he'd called Suh-chun over, though, so they shot another set of 12 arrows before Yuwen said, "I'm going to check on things over there." Zhang Yuwen stood at the grill with Jinxing, watching him flip the sizzling food. "Number 7 Riverbay Road is mine," he said to Jinxing. "Uh-huh," Jinxing said. "You're a director, right? After that whole incident, I looked you up and watched a few of your films." "To tell the truth, at first, I was just thinking—" "Hush." Jinxing shot Zhang Yuwen an enigmatic smile, and Zhang Yuwen fell silent. "I think Hongge might have figured it out too." "I'll come clean when the time is right," Zhang Yuwen said. "That definitely hasn't even crossed WAY-dzuh or Zheng's minds. Speaking of which, Yuwen, are you super rich? You own such an expensive house." Kinda, I guess," Zhang Yuwen said sheepishly. He knew he'd acted unconscionably and very disrespectfully by using his roommates as material for his novel. He swore that was only at the beginning, though. Over time, he stopped thinking of them that way. "You have tens of millions, right? Tell me so that I can get a taste of that lifestyle," said Jinxing. Zhang Yuwen laughed awkwardly. "Maybe one day I'll become a famous photographer and make a lot of money, too." "Well," Zhang Yuwen said slowly, "to be honest, I don't know exactly how much I have." "Now you're just asking for a beating. I mean, I have financial advisors managing it for me." "Figures. What's your rough estimate?" Zhang Yuwen thought for a moment. Maybe a few hundred million? About 600 million, including number 7 Riverbay Road, I guess. Some of that was left to me by my grandparents, and the rest came from investments in films. My actual fee as a director isn't at all that much." Had Zhang Yuwen said 30 million, Jinxing might have envied him, but 600 million was so far beyond his comprehension that he couldn't even be jealous. Nodding dazedly, he said, "So you're way richer than Suh-chun." "I guess so." In Zhang Yuwen's eyes, Suh-chun's financial situation wasn't all that different from Weize's. He didn't like Suh-chun for his wealth or success, anyway. Zhang Yuwen trusted Jinxing. He was a discreet man, and he'd kept Zhang Yuwen's secret for this long already. For all that he looked like the kind of guy who loved to shoot his mouth off, he was surprisingly sensible. Zhang Yuwen had noticed that his roommates all shared a common trait. Everyone needed money, but they never coveted what wasn't theirs. But I gotta warn you, Jinxing said. Remember at the hot spring, when Suh-chun got wasted and kept saying sorry to you? Yeah. He even cried when we returned to the room. Maybe it was just work stress. Yuwen arrived in time to hear the end of Zhang Yuwen's sentence. Who's stressed at work? He asked. You. Jinxing and Zhang Yuwen said in unison. Am I? Grill more shrimp. Xiaoqi can... Oh, she's not here. Never mind. Zhang Yuwen laughed. Don't burn them, he said. Watch out for dioxin. He rarely had barbecue because it was extremely unhealthy in the eyes of doctors. Okay. Yuwen took over for Jinxing and told him to take a break off to the side. To Zhang Yuwen, he asked, what else? Benzopyrene, sulfur oxide, and some tiny tar particles. But it's okay to have some every once in a while. Yuwen laughed, and Zhang Yuwen called over the archery booth. Hey, Mr. CEO! Suh-chun promptly put his bow and arrows down and came over to help. What can I do for you, young master? You're just here taking up space. His implication, you're not contributing. I can't cook for nuts, Suh-chun explained. I'll burn the food. Suh-chun had no life skills to speak of. He hadn't put any points into domestic chores in his skill tree, nor did he want to. It wasn't that he was averse to getting his clothes dirty or smelling like grease, though. To a business major like him, cooking was like conducting a chemistry experiment. I'll teach you, Zhang Yuwen said. Observe carefully. Proteins denature at high temperatures, but they shouldn't come into direct contact with open flames. When a shrimp's shell visibly turns a light pearlescent red, that is, RBG values 255,179,230, give or take 3, that means it's cooked. Yuwen stared at him, astonished. Next, sprinkle about 0.2 grams of salt evenly on each one and glaze them with sauce. Suh-chun cracked up. This is so much easier to understand than a cooking show. Just then, Yuwen received a call and moved away to answer. Suh-chun and Zhang Yuwen fiddled around with the food, and Suh-chun was, as promised, so clumsy that he kept making Zhang Yuwen laugh. Feeling warm, Suh-chun took off his jacket, rolled up his shirt sleeves, and got grilling. While his eyes were on the food, Zhang Yuwen's were on his face. He seemed to become more and more handsome the longer Zhang Yuwen looked at him. After the day they finally slept together, Suh-chun had been more restrained when it came to physical intimacy. Now that they were in their honeymoon phase, though, he couldn't get enough of Zhang Yuwen. Aside from the previous night, when Zhang Yuwen returned home to Riverbay Road, they'd spent every moment together from the second last day of the year to the 5th day of the new year. Suh-chun wanted more, but he didn't want to smother Zhang Yuwen, so he restrained himself and only asked to have sex once every night. Okay. Zhang Yuwen didn't turn him down. In fact, he adapted to his new role, and what started as a painful but pleasurable experience had evolved into mutual exploration and discovery of each other's bodies. Being with the top felt comfortable. They were both emotionally stable, a rare and valuable quality in modern men. There was no need for either of them to guess at what the other was thinking or worry about setting the other off by saying the wrong thing. This minimized the mental fatigue that they might otherwise have experienced in this stage of a relationship. See? You can do it, Zhang Yuwen told him. When are you going to move in? Suh-chun asked. Huh? Zhang Yuwen was taken aback. Don't worry, me too. He didn't understand why Suh-chun would ask him that. I want to eat the meals you cook. Suh-chun blushed and avoided Zhang Yuwen's eyes. Will you move in and live with me? Zhang Yuwen gave Suh-chun a skeptical look. Suh-chun set the grilled meat aside and met his gaze, his eyes betraying his nervousness, and Zhang Yuwen laughed. I'm serious, Suh-chun said. Do you know what you're asking? Huh? Did I say something wrong? Zhang Yuwen thought for a moment. No, you didn't. I want to live with you, Yuwen. Why? You lead an interesting life. Mine is dull. I want to be close to you and live vicariously through you. I don't just keep office hours, Zhang Yuwen said, smiling. Anyone who stays at home would be interesting to you. There are lots of uninteresting guys who stay at home out there. Don't be so modest. Move in with me instead of staying at your friend's house. I can help you move after the spring festival. You're very... Zhang Yuwen sighed. You haven't thought this through, have you? What? Suh-chun was baffled. From the look on Zhang Yuwen's face, Suh-chun could tell he was being rebuffed, but he didn't know why. His heart sank, and he didn't probe, just muttered, "Oh," and lowered his head to return his attention to the grill. Zhang Yuwen found his reaction interesting. Are you upset? No, Suh-chun said, his expression serious. What I mean is, have you really thought it through? Living together, I mean. Suddenly, Suh-chun saw a glimmer of hope. Yes, I don't want to be apart from you. I want to be with you every moment of every day. It's just like Yan said. Seeing you at home every day after I get off work would be a dream come true. Maybe that's all I've ever wanted in my life. Zhang Yuwen found himself moved by Suh-chun's words, and he decided it was time to have a serious conversation. No more beating around the bush. This wasn't the right place for it, but Suh-chun's earnest proposal required a proper response regardless of the location. We really shouldn't be talking about this during a barbecue, Zhang Yuwen said, but I love you, Sichen. I know. I love you, Yuwen. Does this sound like a marriage proposal? Sorry, I didn't mean to be flippant. No, it's okay. But when I asked if you knew what that meant, I was really asking if you've thought about all the responsibilities we would take on. For example, who will do the household chores and cook the meals? Who will manage the finances? Will we have a joint account? Or will someone take charge of all the daily expenses? Who will have the final say if we disagree on household matters? Who will pay for the utilities and keep the house? And do we need to split up responsibilities for household maintenance? What expectations do we have for each other? What are our hopes for the future? If we fight, how will we resolve it? And Suh-chun listened to him, and what he heard in Zhang Yuwen's words was that anything was possible when they were in love and both parties went to great lengths to accommodate each other. That was what Zhang Yuwen meant. He'd compromised on his preferred sexual position, so what else was there that they couldn't accommodate? Once they started living together, however, it would no longer be just a matter of picking up the tab, exchanging gifts, or checking into a hotel for a romp beneath the sheets. Zhang Yuwen wanted to add, besides, the decor in your place is too minimalist, and I ain't about to live in a high-rise. But he restrained himself. Suh-chun had bought that condo with his savings, and he'd shown it to Zhang Yuwen like a bird flaunting its love nest, painstakingly constructed out of dry twigs and leaves for the mate it drew in with its courtship song. Sincerity like that should be respected and never scorned, no matter what the context. But Zhang Yuwen didn't want to move out of number 7 Riverbay Road. He was already thinking about the best way to come clean with Suh-chun, and now he was caught in a trap of his own making, because he was the one who set the rule about no overnight guests. Sure, his roommates might accept a rule change, but he knew it would still feel awkward. You're right. Suh-chun accepted Zhang Yuwen's words calmly. I think we can do this. He turned, apparently searching for something, but Zhang Yuwen said, we should both take time to sort out our thoughts. I need to think it over too. Suh-chun wanted to strike while the iron was hot and make a decision promptly, but for now, all he could do was nod. Just then, Yan-jun returned, and Zhang Yuwen called out, Mealtime! The food's ready, you bunch of lazy bums! Jinxing downed the last of his coffee and came over. Good job, you two. Most of them were starving, having skipped breakfast, and they began to split up the food. Yan-jun, however, surprised them all by putting on his coat and saying, Sorry, I have to leave now. Overtime? Zhang Yuwen asked. Someone from my hometown came to Jiangdong, my brother's friend's kid. He brought some stuff with him to visit my brother and sister-in-law. He doesn't know? Chen asked. Nope. I have to pick him up at the station. Want to take my car? Suh-chun asked. No need. I might not be coming home today. All right, said Zhang Yuwen. Is he here to sightsee? How old is he? Weize asked. 19. He's not here for sightseeing. Yuwen sounded resigned. He wants to enroll in a cram school in Jiangdong for the spring season and get into the university here. Anyway, I've got to go. Okay, sounds good. Everyone bade him farewell and reminded him not to rush. As they dug into their barbecue, everyone praised Suh-chun's cooking and told him that he had culinary talent. Their actions, however, betrayed them. They reached first for the food Jinxing had made, then for Yue Wen's. When all was said and done, there were still a few of Suh-chun's masterpieces remaining, so Yue Wen finished them off to spare his feelings. This gesture may have been unnecessary, though. Suh-chun was distracted, apparently preoccupied by the questions Yue Wen had raised before their meal. Can I bring him back to Riverbay Road for a while? Yuwen texted Yue Wen. IDK where else to go, and I don't want to sit around in the coffee shop. Of course. He's your guest. It's no problem, Yue Wen replied. After a day of barbecue and outdoor fun in the park, they headed back home, chatting and laughing. When they arrived, they saw a 19-year-old boy sitting on the sofa. Yuwen was making tea for him. The boy was in sportswear, and his physique was a lot like Yuwen's, tall and lean, but sturdy. He had the look about him of a high school basketball player. Hi, Yue Wen said. It's nice to meet you. The boy, apparently a sensible young man, stood right up to greet them. Hello, this is Shen Yingjie. They exchanged greetings. Yuwen had called him a kid earlier, so everyone was picturing a child, but when he stood up, he was as tall as Yue Wen and sturdy to boot. Presumably, he was of mixed Highland heritage too, but his complexion was even fairer than Yuwen's, which surprised the rest of them. Your name sounds like it belongs to the hero in a novel, Weize grinned, his eyes practically screaming, Hottie, hottie! Yue Wen shot him a warning glance, though, so Weize refrained from messing with Yuwen's guest. Yue Wen pushed Jinxing toward the kitchen. Let's cook. Again? Jinxing had just returned from a day of fun, and now he had to cook again for this huge pack of young men. Usually, he filled the rice cooker to the brim, and they devoured it all. With an extra person, there wouldn't be enough rice in the pot to go around. Just make him some noodles, said Yuwen. I'll make arrangements for him again after dinner. There are some local specialties here. 2 freshly slaughtered free-range chickens and eggs from the countryside. Yue Wen noticed that Shen Yingjie's eyes were red, as if he'd been crying. He figured that Yuwen must have told him the truth. Let's just all have noodles. I'm too lazy to stir-fry anything, said Jinxing. Of course. A chef's idea of lazy was different from a layperson's. He stewed chicken broth, cooked a big pot of noodles, and fried a dozen eggs with the efficiency of a cafeteria matron. In the end, the group cleaned their plates, especially Shen Yingjie, who wolfed down 4 bowls of noodles. Even Yuwen was in awe. The appetite of a 19-year-old boy was a wondrous thing to behold. Look at you. And now look at him, Jinxing said to Weize. Weize couldn't stop laughing. Red-faced, Shen Yingjie looked at Yuwen and said, Uncle, don't worry about it, Yuwen told him. I'll clean up. Shen Yingjie kept thanking him, and in addition to all his thank yous and sorries, he addressed Yuwen as uncle. The roommates, finding him polite and sensible, offered Shen Yingjie New Year's gift money, and Shen Yingjie didn't dare to accept until Yuwen told him to just take it. He called you uncle, Chahng said. I feel old. His father is a good friend of my brother's, so he calls me uncle too, Yuwen explained. He was 9 years older than Shen Yingjie, so that was normal, but it made the rest of them sigh with emotion. While uncle and nephew cleared the table and washed the dishes, everyone else returned to their respective rooms. Yue Wen lay down on his bed and turned on a video game, but before he could get into it, a message from Suh-chun popped up on his phone. Are you asleep? Yue Wen replied to the message offhandedly and began his game, thinking about how, if they were to live together, he could watch movies or play games with Suh-chun all night. When he got stuck in a game, he could just get Suh-chun to help him. That didn't seem so bad. Several more messages came in from Suh-chun. I thought about it a lot. You're right. I'd like to talk about our future. I've got several proposals. Want to hear them? Now? Zhang Yuwen asked. Is it okay, or is it too late? What do you think? Suh-chun must have decided it was late, because he replied, another day then. But I still want to find time soon to talk to you about another thing. I want to talk to you about something too, Zhang Yuwen said. Sometimes, Zhang Yuwen did not understand how Suh-chun's mind worked. He was highly skilled in his field, and his graduate program was the most competitive one at the Finance and Economics University. In general, his EQ also seemed extraordinarily high, but sometimes, when they were together, it fluctuated wildly. Perhaps men who were in love tended to speak without thinking. Zhang Yuwen himself was sometimes like that too, he realized, especially since he and Suh-chun made things official. Suh-chun had been typing for a while. Zhang Yuwen sent him another message. Not fishing these days? Suh-chun. After I got to know you, fishing started to seem lackluster in comparison. You craving fish? Zhang Yuwen. Yeah, a little. Suh-chun. Join me. I still have one more day off tomorrow. Zhang Yuwen. Yes, sir. In the game, Zhang Yuwen was about to start a boss fight. He snapped a picture of the screen and sent it over so that Suh-chun wouldn't think Zhang Yuwen was ignoring him on purpose. Tactfully, Suh-chun said nothing more. Midway through the fight, however, someone knocked on his door. Yuwen, called Yanjun. Zhang Yuwen had no choice but to set down the controller. Come in, my liege. Here to play a game? What? That's so weird. Okay. What are you up to? Yanjun entered the room and saw the game screen. Am I interrupting you? Nah. How's your nephew? Yanjun sat on the edge of the bed. I'll take him to the hotel later. How long is he going to stay in Jiangdong? A good while. His parents are divorced. He lived with his mom, but when he failed the university entrance exams, his mom didn't know what to do, so she sent him to me. You Highland people seem to produce a lot of fuckboys, Zhang Yuwen said. Unexpectedly, Yanjun blushed, and Zhang Yuwen whacked him playfully with his pillow. Did that sound like a compliment to you? Why are you blushing? In a nimble move, Yanjun caught the pillow and made to throw it back. Zhang Yuwen tried to dodge, so Yanjun, reluctant to actually engage in any teasing, gently set it down. He's planning to rent a house in Jiangdong, Yanjun said. Then he's going to attend cram school to prepare for the entrance exams and apply to the mechanical engineering program at Jianghan University. Jianghan's minimum score requirement is pretty high. Yeah, but he's been fascinated by machinery ever since he was a kid. You and he must have been pretty close. I watched him grow up, Yanjun agreed. He was already 5'9" by the age of 12, and he's still the same height. His dad helped my brother a lot. You could say that he was like a big brother to both of us. Zhang Yuwen smiled. He knew that men in Highland indigenous communities tended to call each other brother, and that these friendships often lasted from childhood to adulthood and even old age. They supported each other in navigating life's roadblocks and offered unwavering assistance on matters that ranged from marriage to careers. Just have him stay here, Zhang Yuwen said. No need to bother with a hotel. No, I can't do that. It's fine. Is he gay? I don't know, but probably not. Why? Do you think he is? He doesn't seem to have a girlfriend, now that you mention it. Yanjun suddenly seemed anxious, as if he weren't gay himself. It's really no biggie, Zhang Yuwen assured him. Just let the others know. It makes sense for him to stay here for the time being. He came to you for help. Being alone in a hotel would be kind of lonely, wouldn't it? After a moment's silence, Yanjun said, All right, but if you guys need anything, just ask him. Abruptly, it occurred to Zhang Yuwen that they didn't have a spare room for Shen Yingjie. Should they have him sleep on the sofa in the living room? Where will he sleep? He asked. He can share a bed with me, Yanjun said. It won't be a problem. I'll take him to look at apartments tomorrow and rent one as soon as possible. Somewhere near the cram school. Nothing too fancy. Young people can endure a bit of hardship. Let him sleep in Xiaoqi's crib. Zhang Yuwen laughed. Yanjuan cast him an amused look, but found himself unable to look away. What? Said Yanjuan. Yanjuan sighed. I hope he can get into university. Looking back, I wish I'd studied harder and gotten a bachelor's degree. Zhang Yuwen smiled. Hindsight is always 20/20. No use regretting what's already happened. But I'll make sure Xiaoqi gets a good education and goes to university. Why not do it yourself? You can still go back and further your studies, can't you? The thought had never crossed Yanjuan's mind until now, but Zhang Yuwen was right. He fell silent again. Zhang Yuwen continued with his game, so Yanjuan sat in the bedroom and wordlessly watched him play. Yuwen. Chang Jinxing appeared at Zhang Yuwen's wide-open door. What's up? Zhang Yuwen asked. I missed you. Chang Jinxing flopped onto the bed and grinned. We haven't seen each other in over a week, and I just wanted to chat. Yanjuan shifted over a little and draped an arm around him, and a while later, Chahng showed up too. Zhang Yuwen knew he wanted to ask about using the car, but his first words when he saw all the others were, Whoa, what are you guys doing? Count me in. He squeezed himself in among them, and they all lounged on Zhang Yuwen's crowded bed, watching him play. Before long, Weize came upstairs looking for Chang Jinxing so he could see today's photos. The room was empty, but he soon found them all in Zhang Yuwen's room. What are you guys doing here? Weize got onto the bed. Why is everyone in my room? Zhang Yuwen demanded, torn between laughter and tears. The guys started a pillow fight, and in no time, pillows were flying all over the room. It wasn't until the clock struck 12 that they returned to their own rooms to sleep. Chapter 41. Weize had been on edge lately because he was about to meet Whiskey. According to his rough calculations, he'd received about 38,000 yuan in livestream tips from Whiskey, plus gifts worth over 6,000 yuan. Whiskey had offered to give him a new mobile phone too, but Weize turned it down. At first, Whiskey's timely support eased the financial pressure on Weize, but when the money kept pouring in, Weize panicked, fearing he would one day receive a court summons accusing him of fraud. And since he cooped himself up at home every day, there was nowhere for him to spend his money. So after using up a little over 10,000 yuan, he deposited the remaining money in the bank with the intention of setting up a nest egg for them. They both agreed that Whiskey would come over on the 7th day of the Lunar New Year to meet up, chat, and have a meal with Weize. Then he'd go back home the next day. Weize chose this date because he knew lots of shops reopened for business on the 8th day, so even if Whiskey wanted to extend his stay, he wouldn't have been able to. Yo, you got plans today? Chang Jinxing asked. Weize, who had been drinking coffee at the dining table, looked up suddenly like a thief caught in the act. With the expectation of planned group activities, Weize never got up before 2 p.m. Yeah, I'm meeting friends, Weize said. Want me to fry an egg for you? No need to trouble yourself. Weize straightened up in his seat. Yuwen has to eat too. He's going fishing today. Earlier that morning, Yanjuan had taken his nephew out to rent an apartment, and Chang Jinxing went to his gym. Yue Wen was already dressed, but he looked bleary as he rummaged through the refrigerator with Chang Jinxing and discussed breakfast options. Chang Jinxing's daily schedule had become a lot more disciplined after nearly a month of working on the film set. He no longer frequented nightclubs, and waking up early made his day longer. So, he had a lot of free time on his hands. Recently, he'd taken to hanging around at home and using Zhang Yuwen's computer to browse information about studying abroad. Are you going out? Zhang Yuwen asked Weize. Weize hummed. He didn't want to tell them he was meeting someone from online. Hanging out with a few friends. Suh-chun is coming to pick me up later, so he can drive you. Where are you headed? Railway station. Is that okay? Of course. Weize's first impulse was to decline because he hadn't put on his makeup, high heels, wig, breast forms, and other props yet. But even if he did get all dressed up at home, he would still have to leave his room like that and risk being seen by Chang Jinxing, who clearly wasn't planning to go out today. He figured he might as well find a restroom at the station and take his time getting himself in order there. If Suh-chun gave him a ride, he could get there earlier, which meant more time to get ready. "Well, I'm off," Yue Wen said. "Have fun," Jinxing told them both. "Bye-bye." Outside, Suh-chun honked his horn twice. Weize slapped on the light makeup base and followed Yue Wen out of the house and into the car. "Drop him off at the railway station first," Yue Wen said, but as soon as he settled into the passenger seat, Suh-chun kissed him. When they were done, Suh-chun glanced at Weize in the rearview mirror. Weize knew he must have looked nervous. Whiskey had been bombarding him with messages since early in the morning. There was a message when he woke up, another when he brushed his teeth, and more when he washed his face, changed his clothes, took selfies, left the house, and arrived at the station. A live broadcast every step of the way to his meeting with Weize. Weize sent him a voice message. "I'm on my way to the railway station to pick you up." Whiskey promptly sent one back, and Weize played it. "Okay, honey, I love you." Yue Wen and Suh-chun both heard it, but neither said a word. Weize's palms sweated profusely as he rummaged through his backpack to reassure himself that he hadn't forgotten anything. "Did you get a good night's sleep?" Suh-chun asked. Weize looked up. "Huh?" Yue Wen grinned. "Knowing you were going to take me fishing, Gaga, I was so nervous I couldn't sleep." Suh-chun chuckled. "I saw that a good friend of mine got a trophy in that game last night. Guess he must have been up real late." He and Yue Wen had, of course, added each other in the game. Yue Wen started telling Suh-chun about what he got up to gaming last night, and before long, they arrived at the railway station. Weize got out of the car, quiet and heavy-hearted, and thanked Suh-chun. Yue Wen rolled down the window. "Want us to pick you up in the afternoon?" "Nah, it's fine," Weize said. "You guys have fun." "Or how about we all hang out together?" Suh-chun suggested. "No thanks," Weize said hurriedly. "It's not my friend's first time in Jiangdong. Jinxing gave me some buffet vouchers earlier. We'll probably get a buffet lunch." "All right then, take care of yourself," Yue Wen said. "Yep, for sure." Weize smiled and hurried off to the high-speed railway station. "Think he'll be okay?" Suh-chun asked Yue Wen as he watched Weize go. "I don't know. Is he meeting an online friend? Seems like it." Weize didn't have much social experience, and so he wore his heart on his sleeve. A glance was all that the more worldly Yue Wen and Suh-chun needed to discern what was up. Yue Wen knew that Suh-chun was worried for Weize's safety, since the person he was meeting was a stranger, but he figured Weize would probably be fine. He was a guy, after all. "Should we tell Jinxing?" "Weize is a guy, so it shouldn't be too dangerous, right?" Suh-chun said. He did send a message to Jinxing, though, filling him in and asking if he gave Weize buffet vouchers. This surprised Jinxing, who hadn't heard about the meeting. "He went to meet an online friend? I did give him vouchers, yeah. I'll call him in a bit to make sure he's okay." "All right, I'll leave it to you," Yue Wen replied. "I do not have a good feeling." I haven't had a good feeling since I started this chapter. Oh, God. The suburb of Jiangdong was even more crowded than the previous day, full of people enjoying the outdoors. Suh-chun drove his car through the picturesque scenery to the camp entrance where they once played laser tag. Mr. Yo's business had finally seen a resurgence during the public holidays, and there were couples playing laser tag all over the hills and valleys. Suh-chun went to say hello, then effortlessly retrieved his fishing gear and slung it over his shoulders. He took Yue Wen by the hand and led him to the backside of the mountain. "You really did bring me here to fish," Yue Wen said. "Did you think I'd seize my opportunity to take you to a hotel?" Suh-chun chuckled. "Honestly, though, I'd love to." It had indeed crossed Yue Wen's mind that Suh-chun might make a sudden change of plans and take him to a hotel instead. "Don't you have a thing for outdoor sex?" Suh-chun added. "There's a lake back there where we can fish and make love at the same time." Yue Wen burst out laughing. Unfortunately, Suh-chun's hopes were dashed. The place, when they got there, was teeming with people sitting and getting cozy by the lake. I heard there are sturgeon in this river, Suh-chun said, but I've never caught one. All year round? Zhang Yuwen watched Suh-chun set up his fishing rod, select a hook, bait it, and cast the line with practiced ease. No, only summer and winter. It's the tail end of winter now. The fish you can catch vary throughout the year, and sea fishing is different from lake or river fishing. Suh-chun began to explain fishing to Zhang Yuwen with complete earnestness. Zhang Yuwen rarely saw him so in his element, and though he wasn't all that keen on fishing, he listened attentively all the same. After a while, Suh-chun seemed to notice that he'd been monopolizing the conversation, and he looked a touch embarrassed. Sorry, am I boring you? No, not at all. Keep going. I find it interesting. This is fascinating writing material. How's your book coming along? I've been so busy with you during the holidays that I haven't written a single word. They'd been together for practically the whole holiday, up until the previous day, so Zhang Yuwen hadn't gotten any time to write. Suh-chun set up 2 fishing rods under a tree while Zhang Yuwen spread a blanket out on the ground and took out a book. Suh-chun sat against a tree, and Zhang Yuwen reclined with his head on Suh-chun's lap. Oh, is the fishing rod moving? Zhang Yuwen asked. Ignore it. Suh-chun ran his fingers lovingly through Zhang Yuwen's hair. Aren't you going to reel it in? You need to be patient. The fish is just testing you. Zhang Yuwen laughed. Why do I feel like you're implying something? What are you hinting at? Suh-chun laughed too. Yuwen, do you want to live with me? Zhang Yuwen made a non-committal noise. Instead of giving him a direct answer, he said, Why do you ask? When I was making plans yesterday, I really started thinking things over, about us. I took everything into account. I see. You're not that keen on becoming part of my life in that way, right? Suh-chun asked somberly. You prefer maintaining your personal space while you're in a relationship. No, it's not that. After a moment's thought, Zhang Yuwen decided to be honest. I mean, you're right, but that's not the main issue. He sat up, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. I like you, but I'm reluctant to give up my current lifestyle. The thought of walking into someone else's life and having to make all those changes makes me hesitant, I guess. But I love you, and that is a fact. Suh-chun looked intently at Zhang Yuwen's eyes. Zhang Yuwen had always been frank and willing to speak his mind. That was one of the reasons Suh-chun loved him. You're infatuated with my big cock, Suh-chun translated, laughing. But you don't want to marry me. It's not just your cock. Zhang Yuwen didn't know whether to laugh or roll his eyes. Damn, that's so crass. I didn't know you had it in you. I also enjoy being with you. Does it really matter so much if I don't want to move in with you? A little. Be honest. Okay, yeah, it matters a lot, Suh-chun admitted. You don't need to worry, though. I'll get over it. You win some, you lose some, right? I've gained that huge cock of yours, so I need to learn to sacrifice something. He laughed at his own joke, and Suh-chun's disappointment melted away. Then Zhang Yuwen leaned in close. So, he breathed into Suh-chun's ear. When are you going to let me give you my cock? Suh-chun turned beet red. So sorry. Zhang Yuwen loved riling him up. It was a different feeling. He knew that Suh-chun would be willing, and he suspected the only thing holding him back was that he couldn't bring himself to say he wanted to try switching positions. Luckily, they were still in the honeymoon phase. If Zhang Yuwen struck while the iron was hot, he was confident Suh-chun would agree. Suh-chun looked at him. Do I need to do anything to prepare? Nope. Just leave it to me. I promise you'll feel good. Okay. He agreed? Just like that. It was almost too easy. Zhang Yuwen was beginning to realize just how much Suh-chun loved him. A fish bit the line then, and they both hurried over to the rod. Suh-chun showed Zhang Yuwen how to reel the fish in, which turned out to be a crucian carp. Fish, Zhang Yuwen realized then, were stronger than he'd imagined. Crucian carp are real fighters, huh? Zhang Yuwen said. He was starting to see what was compelling about fishing. If they don't fight, they'll end up getting eaten. Of course, they get caught in the end anyway. Zhang Yuwen released the fish back into the water and went back to waiting with Suh-chun. Suh-chun parted his legs and had Zhang Yuwen sit between them so he could wrap his arms around Zhang Yuwen from behind. They shared an intimate moment, and Suh-chun kissed and nuzzled Zhang Yuwen's ear. Out of nowhere, Suh-chun said, "I'm going to resign. I'm going to hand in my resignation letter tomorrow, as long as you're okay with that." Huh? Zhang Yuwen contemplated this. "It's no problem for me, of course. So you finally made up your mind to quit, huh?" "You're really okay with it?" "Yep. Congrats." Zhang Yuwen pulled away from Suh-chun and turned to face him. "You can finally take a break." "Yeah." Suh-chun mulled it over, avoiding Zhang Yuwen's gaze. "I'm thinking about getting a certification or enrolling in an MBA program at my alma mater. Either way, I'll take some time to recharge before I decide whether I want to find a new job or start my own business." "Good idea. That job's been draining the life out of you. You need to de-stress." Even on New Year's Eve, he was bombarded with messages. If he were in Suh-chun's shoes, Zhang Yuwen would have sent hitmen after his boss. "But if I quit, I won't have an income. So if you're willing to..." Suh-chun paused for a moment. "I mean, well, our quality of life will drop significantly." "All right, Zhang Yuwen, you gotta tell the men the truth." Zhang Yuwen understood what he was saying. If they became a family, Suh-chun would be without his biggest advantage, or rather the thing on which he most prided himself, his high salary. "Do you have savings?" Zhang Yuwen asked. "A little over 70,000. That was puzzling, given that his annual pre-tax income exceeded $1 million. After tax, he should have still had more than 600,000. Combine that with his stock dividends from previous years, and Zhang Yuwen didn't understand how he, a CTO who had been with the company for half a decade, could have only saved 70,000. What was he spending so much of his money on? Even with loans to repay, he couldn't have had so little in the bank. But Zhang Yuwen didn't ask where his money went. Instead, he said, "That's enough. I have a salary too." Suh-chun's eyes brimmed with hope. "You could rent out your house and offset part of the mortgage." "You mean move in with you?" Suh-chun asked in disbelief. Zhang Yuwen hadn't decided on the final course of action and motioned for Suh-chun to wait and let him think. He was in a bit of a pickle. "Perhaps you could rent a cheaper place," he said eventually. Suh-chun's expression calmed. "I see. Because, as you know, number 7 Riverbay Road was originally..." "Yeah, I understand." Zhang Yuwen's hesitation stemmed from the fact that he was the one who'd set the rule against cohabitation. If he wanted to break the rule, he would have to ask his roommates first. The others would understand, of course, and they'd welcome Suh-chun into the home. But what if, down the line, they all found themselves their own partners? Should their partners be allowed to move in too? 10 people living in their house would be far too crowded and chaotic. After thinking it over, Zhang Yuwen only saw one solution: renting a new place with Suh-chun. But number 7 Riverbay Road was his house. Why should he be the one to move out? Zhang Yuwen noticed that Suh-chun's expression had shifted again, from delighted to despondent. "Are you angry?" he asked. "No." Suh-chun went to check on his fishing rod. "I think we should be honest with each other about what we really think," Zhang Yuwen said. He felt like he'd let Suh-chun down. Suh-chun loved him wholeheartedly, but he was always avoiding direct conversations about key issues. "I'll start." "No, don't force yourself. I mean it, Yuwen. You know, after what you said yesterday, I spent the whole night thinking, and I came up with a detailed plan." Suh-chun retrieved an envelope from his bag. "There are many questions you asked me yesterday. I've added a few more, including questions about how to manage our shared life together. You can make changes to it. I don't think I'll fight you on much of it, but I know you might be disappointed in me because I decided to resign, and you might find it hard to decide whether to..." "What?" Zhang Yuwen stared at him. "Resign? This has nothing to do with your resignation." "Of course it does. My income is gone. I might not be able to give you what you want. and the daily necessities matter. Do you want to reconsider? I can wait for you. Reconsider what? Zhang Yuwen took the envelope. Living together? Me. Reconsider whether you want to be with me, Suh-chun replied. For maybe the next 6 months, we won't be dining at expensive restaurants, and we'll have to budget our living expenses. I also won't be able to buy you gifts like I used to. We might argue over financial issues, and your love for me will gradually fade away. I don't want to end up like that. Can you love me like this? What are you talking about? Do you think I'm with you because of your money? Zhang Yuwen asked incredulously. Suh-chun said nothing. This was absurd. Is that really what you think of me? Another fish took their bait with a loud splash. Neither of them turned to look. So that's how you see me, Zhang Yuwen said. You think I'm with you for your money. It dawned on Suh-chun that Zhang Yuwen was angry. In the entire time they'd been dating, he had never seen such anger in Zhang Yuwen. That's not what I mean, Suh-chun said, trying to explain. I was just trying to say that we're happy together, right? But our happiness is built on material comfort. Because I've been covering expenses so you haven't needed to worry about money. What gifts have I accepted from you? How many restaurants have we eaten at? Mr. Hua, do you want to tally how much money we've spent dating? Let me help you calculate. Ooh, looks like a lot. Tens of thousands. You're angry. We can't communicate like this. You think I love you now because of your high salary? But once you resign, I'll start to look down on you. Am I right? Suh-chun couldn't hold it in any longer. You're already starting to look down on me. I know you have higher expectations of me. You don't say it, but that's how you feel. Know how I know that? It's so hard to get a response from you, and sometimes it's like you're an actor putting on a show for me. When I take you out for dinner or buy you gifts, or when we go on vacation, you act like you really like it, but I can tell you're not being genuine. You think I can still do better, right? Suh-chun hit the nail on the head. While he was wrong about the reason for Zhang Yuwen's feelings, he was exactly right about how Zhang Yuwen behaved. The acting came about because he was simply too accustomed to extravagant spending and had little interest in worldly possessions. It made no difference to him whether a date involved going to the park or going to Disneyland. The splashing intensified, sending up larger sprays of water. I think I need to cool down for a bit and think things through, Zhang Yuwen said. I'd like to go home now. Wordlessly, Suh-chun began to pack up their things, but Zhang Yuwen stopped him. No, you don't need to drive me back. We'll just keep arguing in the car. He slung his bag over his shoulder, and Suh-chun looked at him. I'll contact you after I've cooled down. I'm leaving now. Bye. Zhang Yuwen put the envelope in his bag, left the lake, and made his way out to catch the bus home. Suh-chun remained silent, regretting the impulsive things he'd said. He took out his phone to call Zhang Yuwen, but Zhang Yuwen had forgotten his own phone, and it began to vibrate nearby. Its screen flashed with the caller's name, the fisherman, which was followed by a note that said, family. He hurried out with Zhang Yuwen's phone, only to find the bus departing. He ran back to pack up his fishing gear, but found that he couldn't lift one of the rods. He struggled to reel it in. It began to thrash wildly, and he realized that he'd snagged a fish. Suh-chun didn't want to waste time, so he yanked with brute force. Man and fish engaged in a furious battle, and in the end, Suh-chun emerged victorious, hauling in a sturgeon 1.5 feet long. The fish took its revenge, however. As it left the water, it raised its tail and whacked Suh-chun hard, leaving a distinct, vivid fishtail mark on his cheek. The blow dazed Suh-chun, and it took him a good while to recover. When he did, he shoved the fish into the cooler, slammed the lid shut, and hurried off to his car. Whew! I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I needed that. I needed something to happen. Before I start raving, let's go to the next chapter. Chapter 42. When Jung Weize arrived at the railway station, he ran to the woman's restroom and locked himself in one of the stalls to put on his thermal leggings, change into a loose skirt, and get his fake boots into place. He used a high-neck shirt to cover his barely noticeable Adam's apple and spread his legs to adjust the position of his pecker in the crotch of his pants. By the time he put on his wig and stepped out of the stall, there was a queue for the restroom. Then, he opened his makeup bag and added a few more touches to the basic makeup he'd applied in the morning. He darkened his eyeliner, applied eyeshadow, attached his fake lashes, and put on lipstick, keeping an eye on his phone for Whiskey's messages all the while. Fortunately, it wasn't summer, so he hadn't needed to shave his legs in advance. He was so focused on his makeup that he barely had time to feel nervous about meeting Whiskey. His phone chimed with a message from Whiskey. "Here, getting off the train now." Jung Weize took a deep breath, put away his makeup kit, and slipped into his high heels. "All right, here we go. It's just a meal. I'll see him off tomorrow morning, and then it'll be over. It'll be fine," Jung Weize reminded himself. "It'll be fine." He'd told Whiskey beforehand that he'd contracted influenza A, so his voice would be hoarse, and they couldn't get too close to each other because Jung Weize didn't want to infect him. He said that he didn't want to cancel the meeting altogether because he, Jung Weize, was looking forward to it too. This moved Whiskey, who insisted on seeing her despite the supposed risk of infection. Jung Weize sent a voice message in his best falsetto, trying to make it sound hoarse from illness. "I'll be waiting for you at the exit." "Okay," Whiskey's next message said. His voice sounded thick with anticipation. "Your voice is really hoarse. Are you all right?" Jung Weize put on his mask and took another deep breath to calm his nerves. A crowd surged from the exit game, and Jung Weize scanned the exiting crowd with his arms crossed. A lot of people were returning to Jiangdong after their spring festival holidays, and there were a number of lovers waiting to pick up their other half. He witnessed a number of long overdue embraces in the tiny old station as he himself waited for Whiskey. "Where is he?" Jung Weize wondered, standing tall and graceful. Doubt began to creep in. Another text message came in from Whiskey. Honey, I'm under the red billboard. Where are you? Where are you?" Then, Jung Weize saw a man wearing a mask. His heart plummeted. "No way. Are you kidding me? Fuck." At the exit stood a plain-looking straight guy in a mask. He was a 5 at best, and even that was generous, since the mask probably scored him additional points. He wore a brown jacket and gray suit pants, carried a laptop bag over his shoulder, and dragged a dirty suitcase along behind him. Despite the disappointment crashing over him, Jung Weize waved. He was indeed Whiskey. When he saw her, he beamed, and his crinkling eyes revealed crow's feet at their corners. He quickly made his way over to Jung Weize. "Honey," Whiskey shouted, oblivious to their surroundings. A bunch of people turned to look at Jung Weize, who wanted to flee. Sigh. Jung Weize had forgotten that, while he sent a lot of unfiltered selfies to Whiskey to gain his trust, Whiskey himself always used beauty filters for video calls and photos. After using deceptive photos for so long himself, now Jung Weize had been catfished into this train wreck of an online dating encounter. As Whiskey approached, Jung Weize forced himself to smile and gave Whiskey a light hug, avoiding contact with certain important parts of himself. Whiskey grinned and asked, "Have you been waiting long?" "Are you really 5'8"? Why do you seem shorter than me?" Jung Weize nodded, pretending to be unwell. Not too long. My friend drove me here." Jung Weize's voice was very hoarse, but since he usually spoke in softer, higher-pitched tones, he sounded like a girl who'd lost her baby voice from the flu. It was awkward, but Whiskey bought it. And to sell the act further, Jung Weize took a throat lozenge from his bag and popped it into his mouth. Whiskey didn't suspect a thing. "Where to now?" Whiskey asked. "My hotel?" Jung Weize nodded and left the railway station with him, keeping his expression placid and his eyes fixed ahead. Whiskey, on the other hand, kept ogling Jung Weize's face and chest. "Just go for a meal and get it over with," Jung Weize thought to himself repeatedly. "It'll be fine. It's gonna be fine." In the taxi, Whiskey removed his mask. His features looked the same as the one in his photos, but taking them in the grander context of his face, something just seemed off. Zheng Weize held his forehead with a hand, his mind reeling. Where he'd previously thought whiskey was at least passable, his dreams of love were now in tatters. That's right, Zheng Weize lamented to himself. That's the kind of person I am. I'm ugly, but I still judge other people for being ugly. Whiskey gave the driver the address. Noticing Zheng Weize looking at him, he smiled, and Zheng Weize quickly averted his gaze. Have you had breakfast yet? Whiskey asked. Zheng Weize shook his head. Just coffee. Whiskey nodded. Drinking coffee on an empty stomach in the morning can't be good for your digestion, he said with concern. I'll take you to get some food later. Whiskey assumed his wife was just shy. After all, she'd told him that she had depression and rarely spoke to people in real life. It took her a lot of courage to come out and see him. Whiskey rambled for a bit, then placed his hand on Zheng Weize's thigh. Zheng Weize removed it, and Whiskey, unperturbed, draped his arm around his shoulders and touched his waist. Zheng Weize shot him a few annoyed looks, trying to hint that he should stop, and Whiskey chuckled and dropped it. When they arrived at the hotel, Whiskey went to check in, and predictably, he wanted Zheng Weize to go up to his room with him. Zheng Weize turned him down, of course. No, Zheng Weize said, upset. We agreed on this. Whiskey could tell from her expression that she wasn't happy, so he didn't push it. All right, I'll be right down after I change my clothes. Zheng Weize waited in the hotel lobby's cafe, wondering if he should ask a friend to help him slip away. But he didn't really have any friends other than his roommates, and he didn't want them to know about his cross-dressing. While he was thinking it over, Chang Jinxing called. Zheng Weize picked up immediately. Where are you? Chang Jinxing asked. What are you doing? Zheng Weize eyed the elevator. I'm meeting my elementary school classmate. What's up? Want to grab a meal together? He's leaving soon. He'll only be in Jiangdong for a few hours. Oh, said Chang Jinxing, unconvinced. Is everything okay? Yep. I'll be back for dinner. I'll go grocery shopping later. Chang Jinxing couldn't dig further. Asking too many questions might have exposed that Zhang Yuwen was worried about Zheng Weize. All right, he said eventually. Call me if you need me. Zheng Weize hung up. He really wanted to leave. The contrast between the Whiskey he knew online and the guy he just met was too jarring. But he'd spent so much of Whiskey's money. Oh, money. Zheng Weize realized that was the crux of the issue and started to panic. If he rejected Whiskey, what then? Would he have to return the money and gifts? But he'd already spent a lot, and the platform had no refund policy for the tips and gifts a user gave to a streamer. There was no reason for refunds if they were paying for a live streaming service. Sigh. How did things turn out like this? Zheng Weize had so many regrets. He never should have agreed to meet Whiskey. Wouldn't it have been better to keep this fantasy online? What in the world had gotten into him? Whiskey came back down to the lobby before long, having only changed his jacket. I got you a gift, he said, pulling a music box shaped like a red crystal heart out of his bag. In their 10 minutes apart, he seemed to have adjusted his expectations and realized he couldn't rush things with a girl. I assembled it myself at the factory. You told me not to get you anything expensive because it's the thought that counts. Well, this is okay, right? Zheng Weize opened the music box. Touchingly, it tinkled with the melody of eternal love. He retrieved a wrapped gift from his own bag, the safe travel charm he bought from the flower market, and handed it to Whiskey with both hands. This is for you, Zheng Weize said. I prayed for it at the temple. Whiskey glanced at it and put it into his pocket without opening it. His mind was consumed with thoughts of getting her into bed. Rubbing his hands together like a fly, he looked at Zheng Weize and grinned. Are you hungry yet? Let's grab some food. I didn't eat breakfast either, and I'm starving. Zheng Weize nodded with a smile and led him out of the hotel to a buffet restaurant he booked. He handed over the meal vouchers Chang Jinxing had given him and sat down to dine with Whiskey. Finally, he took off his mask, allowing Whiskey to get a clear look at the lower half of his face. Whiskey seemed mesmerized. Jung Weize didn't have noticeable facial hair, so as long as his voice didn't give him away, he wouldn't be exposed. He did his best to act like a girl, and Whiskey seemed satisfied with her appearance and figure, falling all over himself to get food for her from the buffet. "You're pretty tall," Whiskey said, smiling. "I had a growth spurt after I hit 16. Any old photos of yourself? Can I see?" Jung Weize had prepared some photos in advance, and he sent them to Whiskey from his phone. To cement the idea that he was a girl in Whiskey's mind, Jung Weize showed Whiskey old photos of him when he was little, when his gender wasn't yet apparent. There were also cheeky snapshots of him in a dress from the time back in elementary school when his sisters dolled him up like a girl for fun. Whiskey glanced at the photos happily, then went back to staring at Jung Weize, apparently unable to tear his eyes away. He was clearly head over heels. Jung Weize, for his part, nibbled slowly at his food. He was starving, but he had to restrain himself and eat like a girl instead of giving Whiskey a fright by gobbling his food down. Gradually, he realized that he was getting used to Whiskey, who no longer seemed as ugly as he did at first. And there was still the emotional bond they had built up over talking online day after day. Jung Weize couldn't bear to just ditch him after lunch. "I still don't know your name," Whiskey said. He'd just been calling Jung Weize honey this whole time. "My name is Zhang, Jung Weize replied, making up a random name. "What about you?" "I'm Yang Xie." Yang Xie. I don't know why that feels familiar. Anyway, let's keep reading. "Where do you live?" Jung Weize answered, but it wasn't long before he realized that he had nothing to talk about with Whiskey. Whether the details about their lives were real or fabricated, they already talked about it all online. They both racked their brains for topics to discuss, and Jung Weize grew even more uncomfortable. He still had to be mindful of his hoarse voice and not to talk too much, lest he rouse Whiskey's suspicion. "What do you want to do after this?" Whiskey asked. "Are you full? You only ate a bit." Jung Weize nodded and raised his eyebrows. Where do you have in mind?" "Wherever you want to go. I've been to Jiangdong a few times before. I don't mind just spending time doing nothing if that's what you want." Jung Weize fell silent. He knew he must look to Whiskey like he was thinking hard about places to take him, but in truth, he was wondering when exactly he could make his escape. Whiskey had come here to see him, though, and it didn't seem right to ditch him. Jung Weize was in a tough spot. "How about going to the mall?" Whiskey suggested. "Do you want anything? I can take you shopping and buy you some clothes. Do you like bags? I can buy you one, or maybe jewelry." Jung Weize hurriedly waved his hands to say no, but he felt a little touched. Whiskey was slowly but surely winning back points, which just made Jung Weize's decision more difficult. "Why don't we go to the park and get some sun?" "Sure." As it happened, it was a sunny day. Jung Weize took Whiskey for an afternoon stroll along the river. He barely wore high heels, though, so the walk was excruciating. His feet ached, and he was getting blisters on his heels. He hadn't bought any Band-Aids either. After a short, painful distance, he decided to find a nearby spot where they could take a break. Evidently, there were a lot of differences between a cross-dresser and a real girl who wore heels regularly. Riverbay Road lay on the boundary between Jiangnan and Jiangbei. There was a large square by the river, and next to it was a municipal park where the sun was shining brightly. They could see a handful of kids flying kites there. Jung Weize chose a spot in the garden to sit and take off his high heels. The park was packed with couples on romantic strolls. Whiskey asked Jung Weize to rest his head on his lap, and Jung Weize didn't want to, but had no choice but to lie on his side and obey. Whiskey reached out and stroked his hair. From the outside, it was a heartwarming scene, but Jung Weize was on tenterhooks, worried that Whiskey might pull off his wig. "Is your business going well?" Jung Weize asked. "Not too bad, I guess. It won't make big bucks, but it's enough to support you." Jung Weize imagined that they were a real heterosexual couple who had been in a relationship for a while. Work had kept them apart, but now they were enjoying a rare moment together. "When are you coming to my house? My mom wants to meet you." Whiskey said. Zhang Weize didn't reply. I know it's a hard proposition. And yet you're still asking me, Zhang Weize said reproachfully. It's just that lately I keep thinking about it, Whiskey continued. I can't help it. I want to marry you, honey. I want to live with you as husband and wife. You can move into my house after we marry. Or, if you prefer to stay in Jiangdong, that's fine too. My mom said she'll buy me a house in Jiangdong when I get married. When the time comes, I'll expand my business out here. You don't need to work or live stream anymore. Not that I'm jealous or anything. Whiskey had stumbled into the usual pitfall of straight men, lost in his own fantasy and going off on a monologue, drawing up a blueprint of their future together. Not unlike Suh-chun. Zhang Weize listened without interrupting, feeling touched by his words. My heart aches to see you always staying up late. Whiskey went on, and your health isn't good either. See, you catch the flu as soon as the flu season comes around. You need to take care of yourself so you can bear me a few kids. As Whiskey spoke, he stroked Zhang Weize's back, and he slid his hand around Zhang Weize's waist several times to try and touch his chest. Each time, Zhang Weize fended him off, so Whiskey changed tack and played with the clasp of Zhang Weize's bra. Zhang Weize tensed up, anxious despite how moved he was by Whiskey's words, and swatted his hand away. Can you not? Zhang Weize snapped. Can we just have a normal conversation? Were you listening to me? Said Whiskey, momentarily stunned. Zhang Weize's outburst had sounded a little masculine, but Whiskey quickly dismissed that as his own imagination. I am. Zhang Weize lay down again. Do you want to? Zhang Weize remained silent, and he reached behind his back to secure the loosened bra strap. Whiskey offered to help, but Zhang Weize wouldn't let him. He was on edge. His breast forms had slipped to his abdomen while he was lying on his side. What's wrong? Whiskey asked. Nothing. He reached into his clothes to adjust them. Don't look. Okay, fine. Whiskey grinned and closed his eyes. He thought Zhang Weize would kiss him, but Zhang Weize didn't. Instead, he hastily readjusted his fake boobs, relief setting over him once they were back in place. You don't need to lift a finger, Whiskey added. I'll hire someone to do the housework. You just need to take care of the kids. I want a boy and a oh, God. Sorry. I want a boy and a girl. We'll raise them well. I hope they take after you, since you're good-looking and tall. For some reason, Zhang Weize thought of his parents. Was this what it was like for them when they were dating? On the day he moved into Riverbay Road, he'd dreamed of a life like this, and now Whiskey was offering him everything he ever wanted. A beautiful future was beckoning to him. It was 4 p.m, and Zhang Weize knew he had to leave. If Whiskey kept talking, he was going to cry. Are you leaving? Whiskey asked. Yeah, I don't feel well. My throat still hurts, and I think I have a bit of a fever. I'll go with you and take care of you. I can't leave you alone with no one to care for you while you're sick. As they left the municipal park, Zhang Weize did his best to dissuade Whiskey. He assured him that he could take care of himself and suggested that he return to the hotel, promising to meet him again tomorrow. As for tomorrow, who knew? He'd cook up another excuse then. New day, new excuse. Where there's a will, there's an excuse. But Whiskey wanted Zhang Weize to have dinner with him before he went back to the hotel. Then he flip-flopped and insisted on buying a bento mill. Zhang Weize's thoughts were all over the place, and his emotions were rocketing up and down like a roller coaster. The sweet nothings and touching expressions of concern made Zhang Weize feel like Whiskey really was his ideal partner. But his slipping breast forms were a constant reminder that it was impossible between them. He walked for a while, eventually taking off his high heels because his feet were killing him, and continued along the road in his thick black tights, a fatal temptation to a straight guy like Whiskey. Whiskey kept following Zhang Weize, who just wanted to get away from him as soon as possible. Oh my God. They stopped and stood at the side of the road. Zhang Weize wanted to call a taxi for Whiskey so that he could return to the hotel, at which point Zhang Weize could walk back home alone along Riverbay Road. But Whiskey called out, Jinxing, my wife. Under the afternoon sunlight, Jung Weize whipped his head around, and Whiskey grabbed his hands and moved in for a kiss. Caught unaware, Jung Weize shoved him away. "You're not interested in me, are you?" Whiskey's eyes were filled with disappointment. "No, it's just, I'm a little scared," Jung Weize said. "You're too direct. Do you like me then? Give it to me straight." Jung Weize looked into his eyes, and for a moment he forgot everything else. It had been so long since he last felt loved, and now, standing in front of a straight guy on this warm spring night, he'd finally rediscovered what that was like. Whiskey took his pause as a sign that he still stood a chance. He wrapped an arm around Jung Weize's waist and kissed him. This time, Jung Weize didn't push him away. He wrapped his arms around Whiskey's neck, lost in his role. This was the first serious kiss Jung Weize had ever had with someone he was dating. Never before in his life had he been in a relationship where both parties were in mutual love. At 20 years old, no one he'd fallen for had ever truly loved him back. His unrequited loves always ended in disappointment, and his sex life was limited to casual hookups. When one of those hookups did kiss him, it was Jinxing-style fuckboy encouragement, non-committal, just part of the act. Once it was over, they both went their respective ways. Whiskey's kiss was the first one that truly told him, "I love you." Jung Weize could feel it. Tears welled up in his eyes. Whiskey was far from his ideal type, but he felt his heart stir. But a moment later, Whiskey paused, looking bewildered. Oh, God. What's that? He'd been embracing Jung Weize, and their bodies had pressed together as they kissed. It didn't take long for the kiss to make Whiskey hard, but just as he was about to reach out and fondle Jung Weize's chest, he felt something pressing against him. Jung Weize was hard, too. Fuck. Whiskey reached out to touch it, and in the blink of an eye, his expression transformed from bewilderment to realization and, finally, shock. Jung Weize had completely forgotten. He jumped away from Whiskey, who instantly understood that he'd been deceived. Even worse, he'd just been kissing a man, or a woman with a dick. Whiskey's eyes went wide. Fuck, you're a guy. What the fuck? Jung Weize looked at him in a daze, and Whiskey reached out to grab him in an apparent attempt to confirm what he felt. Jung Weize dodged his grasp and broke into tears. "Motherfucker!" Whiskey bellowed. He looked like he was having a mental breakdown. "Fuck you! Fuck you! Why did you lie to me?" "No, it's not like that." Jung Weize tried to explain. I didn't mean to lie to you." Whiskey lunged and made a grab for him. Jung Weize turned and tried to flee, but Whiskey grabbed his bag and yanked, sending its contents spilling all over the ground. Jung Weize turned back and bent down to pick them up. "Don't do this," he cried. "We're in public. Let's just go somewhere else. I'll explain." "Fuck you." Rage consumed Whiskey, and he started punching and kicking at Jung Weize. One of his kicks landed, and Jung Weize stood up to run, only to receive a punch that made his head spin. Just then, a voice rang out that sounded familiar to Jung Weize. "Hey, you, stop." They were at the back gate of the park, a place where cars rarely passed by. Riverbay Road was just a turn away. A Mercedes-Benz pulled over at the curb, and a man in outdoor gear leapt out from the driver's side. "What are you doing?" The man's voice boomed. It was Suh-chun. He charged over, shoved Whiskey aside, and helped Jung Weize up. "Are you all right?" He didn't recognize Jung Weize, whose eyes were bloodshot from the beating, his nose still bleeding. Suh-chun was just passing by the park on his way to Riverbay Road to return the phone to Yue Wen when he saw, to his shock, a man beating up a woman. No matter what their relationship was, Suh-chun couldn't tolerate violence, so he got out of the car. "Fuck!" Whiskey roared. "Mind your fucking business! What is this, a badger game?" Whiskey lunged to grab Jung Weize, who was hiding behind Suh-chun, but Suh-chun assumed a fighting stance. In one swift motion, he charged forward and tackled Whiskey, grabbing him by the waist and slamming him to the ground. The maneuver was so powerful it knocked Whiskey's shoes off his feet. Jung Weize was stunned. Suitably intimidated, Whiskey clambered to his feet, limped over to his shoes, and put them on. With a terrified glance back at Suh-chun, he turned and fled without so much as another word. Suh-chun's fury subsided some. He'd been feeling agitated, almost to the point of looking for a fight, and it was Whiskey's bad luck to run into him. Still, he did hold himself back from punching Whiskey in the head. The contents of Jung Weize's bag were strewn across the ground. Eyebrow pencil, lipstick, foundation. Off to one side lay a shattered music box playing the tinkling notes of eternal love, now a broken melody. "Do you need me to get you to the hospital?" Suh-chun asked. Jung Weize shook his head, and Suh-chun finally got a clear look at his face. "Weize?" he said in disbelief. Chapter 43, because I can't stop reading. No. Zhang Yuwen hadn't been on the bus for long when he realized that he'd forgotten his phone. That was fine, though. He knew Suh-chun would bring it to him. And what if Suh-chun forgot or didn't notice it? Well, then it was Suh-chun's fault, and he could damn well buy Zhang Yuwen a new one. During his phoneless ride, he thought things over and reflected on himself in a calm, rational manner. He'd always been aware of his own shortcomings. A person's flaws and strengths were often two sides of the same coin. Say, for example, his strong points were his rationality and emotional stability. The flip side was his indifference to others, which tended to make him come across as sexually apathetic. Not even Zhang Yuwen would have dated someone like himself. If he encountered such a person in the wild, he would think, "The hell is up with that holier-than-thou attitude?" And speaking of emotional stability, well, his emotions weren't actually that stable. He didn't get angry very often, but every so often, a landmine would inexplicably trigger him and make him blow up in a rage. The recent incident with Chang Jinxing's producer was a classic example. His reaction to Suh-chun's words today was another. Moreover, he was selfish in love. He didn't want to change his lifestyle and would prefer for his partner to compromise. This was evident in his last relationship, and old habits died hard. Now, he was acting the same way with Suh-chun, treating him like a kept boy who was at his beck and call. What was more, this kept boy tirelessly lavished him with money and love. When all was said and done, this boiled down to the bad habits of the upper class, or, more bluntly, the arrogance of the rich. It was natural for others to compromise and accommodate Zhang Yuwen, but God forbid he made even the tiniest concession himself. If he was late for a date, well, things happen. If the other party was late, though, he might not voice them aloud, but he'd certainly entertain some thoughts about their sloppy time management. Zhang Yuwen had too many shortcomings to list. He knew the seed of arrogance had been planted in his heart a long time ago and watered and nurtured over the years by money and flattery. Now, it was a towering tree, and all his other flaws were the tree's lush leaves. By the time he realized this tree was a problem, it was too late to take an axe to its robust trunk, so he let it be. What else could he do? It was what it was. On top of all that, he was super lazy. He was doing well as a director, but he lacked ambition, and after producing only 2 films, he wanted to rest on his laurels and enjoy his life. When he wasn't creating literary trash, he was just playing games at home. Was it possible that he was jealous? Zhang Yuwen didn't think he was the type to get jealous. Still, suppose Suh-chun became stronger and more successful than him. Would Zhang Yuwen be able to take it? Or would he just flat out reject him? He examined his own criteria for selecting a partner and realized that he may have had an underlying criterion he wasn't aware of. A partner who wasn't as good as him. People were easier to control that way. No doubt, a large part of Zhang Yuwen's overconfidence stemmed from the fact that he was richer than Suh-chun and lived a freer, more leisurely life. It was the same with his roommates. He greedily absorbed their trust and friendship, and he demanded Suh-chun's love. However much they offered him, he took it all, but he never told them the truth. At first, Zhang Yuwen had hidden behind a facade as a precaution, but even after the deception became routine, he reveled in it. On some level, seeing them down on their luck gave him a perverse sense of satisfaction. He magnanimously treated them to meals and hypocritically doled out small acts of kindness because it gave him a sense of superiority. He was just like those wealthy elites who engaged in philanthropy because they wanted to see how the masses struggled so that they could compare it against their own blessed lives. And who am I to judge him? Zhang Yuwen thought as he opened his front door. Didn't I assume the others were after my money? Why else would I keep hiding it from him? These thoughts depressed Zhang Yuwen even more. He practically checked all the boxes for the 7 deadly sins. He had the advantage when it came to material wealth, but in spirit, he wasn't worthy of Suh-chun. Suh-chun was sincere, had a sense of responsibility, and was willing to invest in their relationship, while Zhang Yuwen was a hypocrite who contributed nothing. Other than their positions in bed, he had made no concessions to Suh-chun. But bedroom positions are important too, Zhang Yuwen's inner voice argued. And besides, it's not like Suh-chun doesn't have his own shortcomings. The flip side of having a sense of responsibility was chauvinism and a need for control. Let me see what he wrote in his letter. Back at home, Zhang Yuwen changed his shoes with a somber expression on his face. He brewed some coffee, then sat at the dining table and opened the envelope Suh-chun handed him, which contained his hopes for their future. It was a detailed spreadsheet that came attached with 2 bank cards and a credit card. It only took a glance at it for Zhang Yuwen to want to give Suh-chun a call. His anger had subsided, and he wanted to apologize for losing his temper. The rows on the spreadsheet were labeled with various aspects of their future lives together, and there were 2 columns, one for Suh-chun and one for Zhang Yuwen. Suh-chun had checked certain items under his own name and marked some for Zhang Yuwen, with white stickers attached at the side so that Zhang Yuwen could cover them up and make amendments as he saw fit. The first row was Management of Household Finances and Expenses. The tick was under Zhang Yuwen's name, meaning he would be the one managing it. A comment stated that Suh-chun would hand over all his income and use a supplementary credit card, while Zhang Yuwen would pay the bills monthly. Essentially, this meant he would give Suh-chun an allowance to spend. Next up was work, relocation, changing of cities, and other related matters. Suh-chun had ticked both of their names, suggesting that any significant life changes would be joint decisions. Zhang Yuwen thought for a moment, then tore off the sticker and pasted it over the tick under his name. Suh-chun could make the decisions himself. The third row was the home renovations, decor, and other matters not affecting the place of residence. Suh-chun had only ticked under Zhang Yuwen's name. And so it went. The spreadsheet covered topics like pets, gathering with friends, holiday celebrations, vacations. Zhang Yuwen reviewed each line, making some additions to the spreadsheet as he went. When he flipped to the second page, he came across a section on properties. Under the last item, real estate, both of their names were ticked, with a reminder in the comment field to add Zhang Yuwen's name to the deed of the current apartment. Zhang Yuwen was moved by this gesture. Yes, it meant that they would be jointly responsible for paying off the mortgage for Suh-chun's apartment, but Suh-chun had already paid down more than $1 million. Adding Zhang Yuwen's name was a sign of trust and a gesture of sincere commitment. Essentially, he was offering Zhang Yuwen at least $500,000 in open hands. Touched, Zhang Yuwen decided to withdraw a paltry 1.2 million yuan from his 600 million yuan fund and pay off Suh-chun's mortgage in advance. But this still didn't involve making any actual compromises. If Suh-chun was willing to add Zhang Yuwen's name to his apartment, then the principle of reciprocity dictated that Zhang Yuwen add Suh-chun's name to number 7 Riverbay Road. Here's the thing. Number 7 Riverbay Road is valued at 120 million. That's 100 times more than your 1.2 million. Unable to decide, he eventually opted to set a deadline. If we can stay together for 4 years, I'll add his name to the deed. Jinxing yawned as he came down the stairs, having just woken from a nap. When did you get back? Just now. Zhang Yuwen put the bank cards away and folded the spreadsheet back into the envelope, wondering why Suh-chun hadn't shown up yet. Where's the fish? Jinxing asked. They looked at each other. Zhang Yuwen had forgotten all about the fish. Suh-chun will bring it over later. Then again, Suh-chun probably hadn't been in the mood to fish after he left. Maybe Zhang Yuwen should just take everyone out for dinner. At that moment, Suh-chun stood at the entrance of the villa complex on Riverbay Road, still unaware that he'd be entitled to at least 60 million of Zhang Yuwen's assets 4 years down the line. One side of his handsome face was still stinging, bearing the imprint of the slap from the sturgeon. "Don't tell them," Zhang Weize pleaded. He didn't want his roommates to know about his humiliating encounter. "How can we not tell them?" Suh-chun said. "Look at the state of you. Weize, what happened? You need to tell us so we can all help you figure something out. What if he comes looking for you again when we aren't around? Do you realize how much danger you were in today?" Suh-chun had his rough estimations of what happened. Zhang Weize received a beating after he met up with his online friend, but when Zhang Weize went to the railway station earlier, he wasn't dressed as a woman, so Suh-chun was struggling to connect all the dots. He assumed it was some kind of role play. Of course, Suh-chun knew that Zhang Weize was Zhang Yuwen's roommate, but in his mind, Zhang Weize was a passive bottom, just like a girl. Mindful of the imagined gender difference, he didn't drag Zhang Weize into the house. "You have to tell them," he said, though, somberly. "They're going to ask you anyway." Zhang Weize wiped at his bloody nose. He couldn't stop crying. Eventually, he nodded, and Suh-chun led him into the house. Zhang Yuwen and Chang Jinxing were talking when they saw Suh-chun and Zhang Weize enter. Suh-chun with half of his face bruised, and Zhang Weize with a badly battered face. They both froze in shock. "What the hell? What happened?" Chang Jinxing demanded. When Zhang Weize saw Chang Jinxing, he burst into tears again. Suh-chun shot Zhang Yuwen a vexed look. "Your phone. What happened to your face?" A fish slapped me with its tail. Zhang Yuwen gestured to Zhang Weize. "And Weize?" Suh-chun shrugged, indicating that he didn't know. Zhang Yuwen was speechless. They looked at each other. Then Zhang Yuwen went to get a medical kit. Suh-chun turned to leave, and Zhang Yuwen asked, "Where are you going?" "To get the fish." He carried a cooler box in and set it down in the kitchen. Zhang Yuwen applied medicated ointments for Zhang Weize, but Zhang Weize wouldn't stop crying, so Zhang Yuwen passed the responsibility for comforting him on to Chang Jinxing. He then had Suh-chun sit at the dining table and applied an ointment to his bruised cheek. When Suh-chun looked up at Zhang Yuwen, his gaze lingered on Zhang Yuwen's lips. "Does it hurt?" Zhang Yuwen asked. "A lot," Suh-chun confirmed. "Sorry," Zhang Yuwen said in a small voice. "About what?" "I shouldn't have lost my temper at you like that." "It was my fault," Suh-chun said in a similarly small voice. "If you're not angry anymore, can I kiss you?" In full view of Zhang Weize and Chang Jinxing, Zhang Yuwen leaned in and kissed Suh-chun, keeping it chaste. Zhang Weize cried even louder and buried his face in Chang Jinxing's chest. "What happened?" Chang Jinxing asked as he patted Zhang Weize on the back. "Who did you get into a fight with?" But Zhang Weize clearly didn't want to talk about it. He just wanted to get his feelings out. Suddenly, Zhang Yuwen put two and two together. "Weize, was it that online friend of yours?" With tears still streaming down his face, Zhang Weize nodded. "Yeah." For the second time that day, Zhang Yuwen blew his lid. He felt like he might need some fast-acting heart medication. "Why?" he bellowed. "Where is he?" "It's all my fault," Zhang Weize insisted, fearing that his roommate might escalate the situation. If Whiskey called the police, things would get even worse. "I shouldn't have deceived him by pretending to be a girl." Understanding dawned on Chang Jinxing. "Fuck! Where is he?" The clock struck 5, and Yanjuan and Chahng returned together. When they caught sight of Zhang Weize, they both stared at him, floored. Finally, after nearly 40 minutes of crying, Zhang Weize recounted what had transpired. Everyone was enraged. "Which hotel is he staying at?" Yanjuan asked. "Don't worry, Weize. I won't hit him. I just want to have a word with him." "Please don't. I shouldn't have been greedy for his money. Just leave it. He's gone now. We won't be in contact anymore." "How can we just leave it?" Chun-hong demanded. "This has to be dealt with." "How much of his money did you spend?" Jinxing asked. Everyone was sitting around Zheng Weize, which made him even more nervous. I don't know. Tens of thousands, probably. I met him on the livestream channel, and he gave me gifts." Zhang Yuwen looked at Suh-chun. "Did you beat that guy up?" "I didn't use that much force," Suh-chun said. "I just tackled him to make him back off. I didn't recognize Weize at first. If I had known, I'd have beaten him to a pulp." Zhang Yuwen was impressed. It was hard to hold back in a fight. It required an absolute advantage in strength and skill over the other person. His attention now diverted, Zhang Yuwen wondered who would win if he and Suh-chun were to fight. "Where did you learn to do that?" "I was in a rugby team in high school, but don't worry. I swear I will never lay a hand on you if we fight. I'm afraid of divine retribution. See, I already got my comeuppance after you left today, and we were just arguing." The mention of divine retribution amused Zhang Yuwen, but alas, Zheng Weize was still upset. The feelings welling up inside Zhang Yuwen were really too complicated for him, anyway. Although Zhang Yuwen had been the first to fly into a rage, his fury dissipated quickly. After hearing the whole story, he felt that Zheng Weize himself bore half of the blame. He had, it seemed, fallen for a straight guy and spent his money. "But no matter what, we have to get even," Zhang Yuwen said. "Yeah," Yuwen agreed. "Let's do it tomorrow," Zhang Yuwen said. "We'll go and look for him tomorrow." No, please don't," Zheng Weize said in a small voice. He tugged Yuwen by the hand. "It's okay, please. I don't want to see him again." Zhang Yuwen got up, saying nothing, and went to the kitchen. He opened Suh-chun's cooler to find a sturgeon so enormous it resembled a prehistoric monster. It had been on ice for hours, but it was still alive and kicking, and Zhang Yuwen barely managed to dodge in time to avoid its tail. "Careful there," Suh-chun said, entering the kitchen to help and almost getting himself slapped a second time. "Forget it. We'll order takeout tonight," Zhang Yuwen decided, shoving the whole sturgeon into the freezer for Jinxing to deal with later. "Or we could go out." "How are we going to eat out with all of that happening?" Suh-chun took out his phone to order takeout, but Zhang Yuwen stopped him from paying. "Have you looked at the spreadsheet?" Suh-chun asked. "Yep, it's on the table. I made a few revisions," Zhang Yuwen told him. Suh-chun hummed in acknowledgement. "I was thinking we could rent a house and live together. My monthly salary will cover the rent. We can cook at home and simply eat." Suh-chun broke into a grin immediately. This was the biggest surprise he'd ever received, and he fixed his eyes on Zhang Yuwen in uncontainable delight. "For real?" "Yeah." Zhang Yuwen had been thinking about it. Once upon a time, he'd considered returning to live in Jiangnan. Jiangbei was a good neighborhood, but it lacked local character. He'd lived in Jiangnan for a while as a child, in the apartment above his maternal grandfather's clinic. There was a bustling food market downstairs, and at night, the street was crowded with all sorts of vendors. Renting a small house in a residential area and living there with Suh-chun, experiencing the hustle and bustle of everyday life, it didn't sound like such a bad idea after all. All right, y'all. I'm gonna be honest. What I read today, I did not take notes. I just wanted to read because I was feeling kind of down in the dumps, and sometimes taking notes is a little bit cumbersome, like in the process. So I didn't take notes and was just like, I'm just going to read, especially when I got excited. So I was supposed to be reading chapters 39 through 41. As y'all can see, we got to, to chapter 43. So I don't really have my notes all together. I'm going to have to like flip through the pages as I talk about my thoughts a little bit. So I guess for chapter 39, the most I can say is I'm really excited for Chun-hong for opening up his gym and for having a more creative approach to his gym. It's not just a regular gym, but something that he's catering, more toward the LGBT community. No, actually not even technically fully that. I think just to gay people specifically. So, I mean, I don't think other people would be rejected. But as far as like who he wants his main target audience to be, I think that's what was said. So anyway, nevertheless, I'm happy for him. I'm glad that everyone came out to support and just had this moment with him. It's also nice to know that Yuwen played a lot in helping him make decisions and using his knowledge from being in sales to help Chahng open his business. So hopefully that continues to go well. And, you know, we saw Mr. Elite come up and make a scene or whatever. They had sex or whatever. That is what it is. Another thing that was quite interesting is just Xiaoqi being gone throughout all of these chapters is what I'll say. So anyway, moving on to the next chapter, I think. Yeah. And just seeing how things are different for Yuwen now that Xiaoqi is with his mom. Oops, I dropped my bookmark. And basically him having to find out like who he is without Xiaoqi. It's funny, but I know that that's a real thing. And so I'm happy that he's getting days without her, even though he may be feeling a little bit lost. Like, okay, where do I go? What do I do? I think that's kind of funny. And then again, we have the mentioning of his feelings for Yue Wen and him realizing that the way he thought things were going to go is not the way they were going at all, which I did say before. I wonder if the thoughts that he has about Suh-chun is because of his perceptiveness or simply because of his wishes, his hopes and his desires and wanting to be with Yue Wen. So, I mean, I was beginning to think that there was something suspicious because actually, so here's the real deal, because someone commented in Patreon on one of my videos, I think it was the chapters 33 and 34. They were like, man, you're such a Suh-chun and Yue Wen hater. And I was like, yep, I am. So here's my thing. I'm not a Yue Wen and Suh-chun hater for real, but it's hard for me to have confidence in a relationship when one of the people doesn't even have confidence in the relationship. And in the early stages, we saw Yue Wen kind of teeter-tottering. And that was the thing for me. So it was like, well, if you're not even sure about this thing, then I'm not sure about it either. I don't like it. Just be with Yue Wen. But when things were confirmed between them, then I was like, cool. Okay. It wasn't the shit that I wanted, but I'm okay with this relationship. So I got okay with it or whatever. But I don't like Fei Tian keeping going back to, that's bad English, but y'all know what I'm saying, going back to Yuwen and his feelings. And so we get to it again where he's thinking about it, and even Chahng was trying to see if he could like squeeze away for Yuwen and him to get some time alone. And I was finally settling in this relationship between the two. But then it was mentioned the night that he was drunk and crying and saying, I'm sorry, and something was about to be revealed, only for it to not be mentioned. Was not very happy about that. So now at this point, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I'm not feeling it, this thing that Fei Tian is doing. And we just gonna leave it at that for now. We can discuss it when we have our recap and discussion overall. Anyway, Suh-chun asking Yue Wen to move in with him to me is crazy. Not necessarily because of the length of time they've been together. I mean, yes, because of that, but not because of that, because I know that there are some people who have known each other for a very, very, very short time, and then they get married and they live happily ever after for years and years and years. But it was just kind of so abrupt and all over the place. And I do agree with Yue Wen when he was like, sir, did you really think this through? Like, we just started dating. We're in the honeymoon phase. We haven't even gotten to the point where we are discussing our true life goals, our values, and the way we want to live and all that stuff. Before we were in a relationship, all we did was talk about video games and stuff. So we can't just move in together without seeing who's going to take care of daily expenses, who's going to manage the finances, who's cooking the meals and cleaning the house, who's handling maintenance when, the dishwasher decides to start acting up, who's going to resolve this, who's going to resolve that, do we want kids? All of that stuff is very important. So I'm glad that he mentioned it. But Yue Wen Suh-chun was very proactive because that man he went back and was like, yeah, let me think about all this stuff. You right. So anyway, I think that was all I had to say about that chapter. I thought the moment of all of them being in Zhang Yuan's room in his bed and pillow fighting and stuff to be cute. Very cute. Moving on to chapter 41. This is where I thought that things were going to fall apart for Zhang Weize, but no, this was the chapter for Suh-chun and Zhang Yuwen to get into their tit for tat. But anyway, yes, we have Zhang Weize going off to, meet Whiskey finally, which was very concerning for me. I was very scared. And again, just from what I said in the live session, I can relate to it on so many levels. So, him lying to everybody about where he was going or what he was doing exactly. It was very concerning. And then just going to see this person in person and being so jarred by that experience. And I know I'm kind of putting the two chapters together, but that being such a jarring experience for him, because I remember when I did that when I was 18 and I went out with a 32 or 36-year-old and he didn't catfish me. So I saw his picture. That's what he looked like even in person, but it still did not meet my expectations, but I was so consumed by what I wanted to do at 18 that I was willing to, trudge my way through it. Anyway, it was so concerning. And then even I will say that I'm glad that Zhang Yuwen, in his concern, reached out to Chang Jinxing and was like, hey, call him, check on him, please. Because basically I'm on a date. I can't really do anything right now, but you can. Okay, cool. So anyway, their date ended up in a total disaster. Which was crazy, because it just, again, I'm trying to find the exact page because it was crazy. But yes, basically, Suh-chun thinks that, he decided he's going to resign. And Zhang Yuwen was like, great, because clearly your job was stressing you out and you need to distress. So he was happy for him, Meanwhile, Suh-chun is thinking that the relationship between him and Zhang Yuwen is based on material happiness and that Zhang Yuwen is going to look down on him. So, of course, Zhang Yuwen exploded. He's like, is that how you see me? I see how it is. You think I only want you for your money. I was like, oh, crap, he's angry. And then, Suh-chun was like, we can't communicate like this. Let's just hold up. And Zhang Yuwen was like, nope, I'm leaving. Don't take me home. I'm good. And it's it just is what it is. So that was, those chapters. And then, yes, so getting to chapter 42 with Zhang Weize, because we'll come back to them, the couple. His meeting, him getting himself together was just very concerning for me. Just the whole thing from the very beginning of communicating with Whiskey. And I ain't trying to be funny. His name is Whiskey. So not that that's really a problem, but his name is Whiskey. So it's a problem in the book. It's a problem. But I don't know. I was partially upset with Zhang Weize for seeing Whiskey in person and then being so judgmental about it, because he felt like he was getting kind of sort of catfished. The guy used filters, but clearly he still looked like him. He was able to recognize him. But it's like, sir, you do realize that this man this whole time has been thinking that you are a woman. You have been the catfish of all catfishdom here. So you have no right to get mad at him because he filtered his face to make him look a little better. Meanwhile, he did send you an actual picture of himself before. He sent you pictures. Come on. So now, aside from all that, Whiskey is totally disgusting, which, like I said, his name is Whiskey, because even though, he's saying, oh, we don't have to have sex, we can just spend the day together and stuff, he still was making actions to try to get Zhang Weize to sleep with him, and that was very disgusting behavior after he had already said, no, we're not doing this. So I understood Zhang Weize's upsetness on that front. And I even understand his difficulty in his mindset toward whiskey. Like on one hand, he's like, I want to run, I want to get away. And then on the other hand, he's like, but this guy has spent so much money on me. Like, what's going to happen from that? So there's the fear. But then also the other side of seeing whiskey look at him and seeing those feelings of like love, or what he discerns as love. I'm not really sure that's what it was. But seeing someone that he was interested in, regardless of the whole looks and everything, that was also interested in him. Genuinely for real, even though it was under catfishdom, and he has never experienced that. So I understand him not wanting to lose that, and you know how everything worked out with them as far as the whole letting him kiss him thing. All I have to say though is Chun-hong was right. Chun-hong warned you in book 1, I believe it was book 1, that he warned you that you need to give that man his money back or buy him gifts as well, and stop accepting his money, because that's dangerous territory. And don't meet that guy, because if you meet that guy, you don't know how he'll respond. And one of those ways he could respond is to fly into a rage and beat your ass. And that is exactly what was happening until Suh-chun stepped in. And so it's just like, I don't even fault Whiskey for fighting him or beating him, I'll say, because it wasn't really a fight. Because that's like, I mean, that's a huge betrayal. This person that you have sent thousands and thousands of yuan to, you have given so many gifts, you've been talking to on a consistent basis, you know, growing a bond between each other, and telling this person, like, you want to take care of them, you want to marry them, all of that stuff. And you're in love with this person thinking that it's a woman, only to realize that you have been catfished in the end. Yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too. And I'm not a physically violent person, but I can understand him getting physically violent. Like, what the did you just lied to me. You played with my heartstrings. You took my money. Like, what? So nevertheless, Suh-chun stepped in, and, you know, Jung Weize was not continued. It wasn't continued for him to be beaten to a pulp or anything like that. So that is what it is. Also, I'm sorry for repeating his name at some point when I was like, I'm Yang Xie, because that's Whiskey's real name. And I was like, Yang Xie, why does that sound familiar? Maybe I'm just tweaking, but it definitely sounded familiar. Anyway, I'm glad that they all know now what's been going on with Jung Weize. And it's not even the scenario where they should have paid more attention or anything like that. They already gave their advice. Chun-hong already gave his words of wisdom. And it even said in the book that Jung Weize only heard what he wanted to hear, you know, and they did check on him sometimes. But at the end of the day, he's a grown man, and he made these grown man decisions to deceive someone and let his desire for that money, and especially desire for love, connection, and affection, to overrule logic, to overrule safety, you know. So nevertheless, I'm glad that Yue Wen kind of calmed down and was like, okay, yeah, buddy, you're have to blame for this crap. But you know what? We're still going to find him and beat his ass. I was like, you know, I'm here for it. Yeah, sure. It's kind of like one of those things. Like I say, accountability is not just, support. Yes, accountability is important. But one thing that I say is that showing someone support is not necessarily always just being like, oh no, I'm so sad for you, you're hurt, or here's a shoulder to cry on. Sometimes it's like, bruh, you wrong. You are so wrong for that. I'm still support you, but like, you are so wrong for that. So here's how things are gonna go down. Let's go beat his ass. But you do know you was tripping, right? Anyway, things just kind of got crazy. Like I said, I was only supposed to read chapters 39 through 41. It was going to be 3 chapters. Somehow I added on an extra 2. So I hope you all enjoyed these chapters. I know I did, because I was getting a little bored. if you will. It was just seeming a little too stagnant for me, and I really needed something to happen. I mean, I think I've already told you guys that I'm more of an angst reader anyway. I like to have my heartstrings tugged. I like for things to be going on, mostly because that's just how my life has always been. You know, growing up, I feel like it was every 6 months. Like things were good and then suddenly things went bad. Things were good and then suddenly went bad. So for all of my life, I've always felt like things have been happening. Things have been going wrong, even if things are going good in certain areas. And so when I read, I want that feeling. The fluff and stuff, even when I watch anime and shows and stuff, I don't want the fluff. I want the action. I want the anticipation, the suspense. Like I want somebody to blow up. So yeah. I was happy with these chapters. This is how I know when something is exciting me, because I end up reading more than I intended. Is this one of my favorites? No, it's absolutely not. And there are some thoughts I have about the writing in this second novel compared to the first one. But we'll hold that for the discussion. Maybe. I feel like I've talked entirely too much. When did my thoughts start? At 2 hours, 12 minutes, and 58 seconds, and we're at 2:30. Oh shoot, I'm gonna stop talking, you guys. It's also 11:43 p.m. I should probably get in the bed. So I hope you all enjoyed these chapters. Please, PLEAZE, let me know your thoughts and reactions in the comments, because Mari wants to know what you're thinking. Alrighty, 사랑해. Well, I'd even. Bye-bye.